580 Sports Talk coming to you on an overcast and cloudy Tuesday afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake LeBon, Brendan Warzinski, Dan Lucero with you on this Tuesday. Plenty to get to. We'll talk Chiefs offense, concerns, long-term issues. We will also get some very bummer news from the Kansas State Wildcats. We will get into the Cats as well. We'll go around the NFL, Random Question Tuesday. Chris Jones, did his price tag go up? We will get to all of that today. We'll talk with Matt Derrick. We're going to talk with Michael Swain. A lot to get to today here on 580 Sports Talk. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Very easy, 785-272-9429. Also, give us a shout on our YouTube page. Go to youtube.com. Type in 580 Sports Talk. That's 580 Sports Talk. It'll come up. Click the subscribe button, and you can get notified whenever we recap videos and recap games for the show as well. Go to youtube.com and search 580 Sports Talk. We do have Royals baseball today. They are in action. I don't think the weather's going to affect it a whole lot. It looks like it's going to dissipate. We do have Royals baseball tomorrow. That is a day game, the very rare Monday and Wednesday day game. I still will never, ever try to figure out a Major League Baseball schedule, why they played a day game yesterday and then a day game Thursday or Wednesday. Who knows? But we will be on after Royals baseball coming up tomorrow. So we got lots to get to on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. On a scale of the 2018 Chiefs being a 0 when it comes to the offense, because that was a juggernaut of an offense, okay, to a scale of Justin Fields quarterbacking the Chicago Bears. Where are you at with the Chiefs offense?
3.
Okay. Justin Fields is not taking,
is that a 10?
Yes. That Justin Fields.
Okay.
10 is max worry.
10 is max worry. 0 is minimum worry. I'm like a 0.5.
0.5. Okay. What if I say this then? Yesterday on Sunday, the Chiefs' lowest offensive success rate in 96 starts with Patrick Mahomes. Sunday. Sunday was the worst offensive success game in the history of Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. That does not count the postseason, because I would guess that the Super Bowl probably be up there. So we're going regular season here. Super Bowl against the Bucs, that was probably the worst. But Sunday was the Chiefs' lowest offensive success rate in 96 starts with Patrick Mahomes. Okay. The game against the Detroit Lions was the 92nd worst or lowest offensive success rate in 96 starts. So
I'm going to guess it does include the playoffs, actually, because week 2 was the 82nd career regular season start.
So it does. So that was the worst the offense under Patrick Mahomes has ever been. That is the worst. Rock bottom for the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Week 1 was the 92nd out of 96. Still at a 3?
I think I'm somewhere between a 2 and a 3.
2 and a 3. Doesn't change at all for you.
No, and the reason it doesn't change for me is because the things that are hindering the Chiefs from having success right now, if I were watching Chiefs games and it felt like, boy, the defense hasn't figured out, like Mahomes is under siege every snap, no one is open, they can't run the ball even a little bit, which they haven't run it great, but they've had some moments. Mm-hmm. Certainly the first play of the second half, obviously the most obvious example of that. But if I were watching and feeling like the Chiefs are being shut down, I would have a much higher level of concern. I feel like what we are seeing through the first 2 weeks is a Chiefs offense whose worst enemy is itself. And those mistakes, A, they have a nasty little habit of happening to the Chiefs early in seasons. Like, this is not the first time we've seen this particular movie. And B, they also tend to solve themselves, work themselves out as we go along. And I have all the faith in the world that that's what's going to happen here.
Here's what occurred in the game against the Jaguars, which was the worst game, according to the numbers, for offensive success rate in Patrick Mahomes' career. First half, drive number 1. They had to punt. Well, if MVS just catches the ball and falls forward, it's a first down. Kind of situal awareness, you know. If you catch it, he falls forward, it's a first down. Instead, he decided to go all Demarcus Robinson on us and catch it, go backwards and fall down, and we're a yard short and we're left with 3rd and 1. So if MVS just sees, you know, not every play is designed to go for a touchdown. I don't know if the general fan understands that. Not every single play is designed to go for a touchdown, okay? That play there was just get a first down. And he had it, and then he decided to run backwards. Drive number 2, first down, pass Travis Kelce, hold on our good friend Donovan Smith. Had to punt. Drive number 3 didn't occur because Richie James fumbled the punt. Drive number 4,
Which was really drive number 3.
Watson fumbles the football. Drive number 5, kind of a casserole of nonsense, if you will. Creed Humphrey snapped it low,
Which he did all day.
and from what he said was, one, the football was slippery because of the
it was like 178% humidity.
yes,
Yeah.
and it was like playing in a bath. Okay,
I can buy that.
and so snapped it low, had to recover. Then of course our good friend Juwan Taylor with the false start. And Patrick Mahomes at that point was super frustrated, just like we all get frustrated. And he's just like, screw it. Chuck it deep. Intercept. Drive number 6, Mahomes gets sacked, sets up 3rd and long. And then Noah Gray turns it into Deebo Samuel, which was kind of cool there for a split second.
It's because he has diabetes.
Well, more people need to get it then. And sets up 4th and short. They actually convert on the inside give.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was
then,
that the inside handoff play? No, I don't think that was.
That was later in the game.
That
was
was
later
the
in the
swing
game.
pass to Clyde.
Yeah.
Where they picked up the 4th
where
and
they
short.
picked up the 4th. Yeah. Leads to a touchdown. Okay. So of those 6 drives, they scored 1 touchdown. They led at the half, which is still banana land. How many of those do you say was on the Chiefs? To me, they're all like some people say, well, Jake, you know, if the defensive guy, you know, didn't, you know, he beat Donovan Smith. So that was more so the defensive guy had a good rush to cause the hold.
I thought that was kind of a soft hold. I've seen that hold not get called.
For me, on those situations, that was just hand placement by Donovan Smith. All of those to me are just self-inflicted wounds in the first half. 3 of them are turnovers, 2 fumbles and an interception. And then one of them was a touchdown, but a lot of them are just, what are you doing type of mistakes. That was the game against the Jaguars. Penalties and turnovers that caused so many issues. Game number 1 was just the drops. That's why I was not overly concerned about it, because you just, you know, got to catch the football. Drops were not an issue in this game. That was more of a singular game. And so game 1 was all self-inflicted because they could not catch a football. Game 2 was self-inflicted because of penalties and turnovers. So it's 2 games to start things off, right? 2 different issues, right? When is it that you start to say, well, it's not one thing, it's another. If game 3, if they also have penalties and that's an issue in game 3, I think then I'll start worrying a lot more that so far they can't get out of their own way. And this might be just a part of who they are. But since they're two different issues right now, I'm not as concerned. But the more that this team has issues in 3 games, 4 games, right? Most people say after 4 games, you can start making a little bit of some characterizations of this offense. They just simply self-destruct. And the game against the Bears will be very telling because the Bears are not very good. And the Bears defense is not exceptional. So I look at this game for the game against the Bears as a hope to get it right, a get-right game, if you will, and that they don't have some of these self-inflicted wounds that have caused game 1 and game 2.
So I asked this question earnestly, and with the caveat that I have already made clear, I'm not really that worried about the offense. I'm not that worried. What is the threshold for shooting yourself in the foot and not good? Like, where is the dividing line between, man, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot 6 drives in a row? To me, in general, and the Chiefs are not in general. Let's keep that in mind. They are not in general because they have number 15 and they have Andy Reid as their head coach. So this is not generally speaking. But if you tell me in a game, all right, I'll give you the Packers as an example. They scored 24, they went up 24-12 on Sunday. They had 11 yards the rest of the game and lost and gave up 13 straight points and lost that game. To me, that's not, man, they shot themselves in the foot for a whole quarter and a half. No, their quarterback's playing really well and no one else was. That's what that was. And they've got major problems. Generally, if you tell me, dang, the whole first game, it was all self-inflicted. Second game, the first half, all self-inflicted. To me, at that point, that's not like, man, they should have been better. To me, that's generally like,
that's who you are.
That might not be very good. And you're right. We're not too far into the season. And again, the Chiefs are different. So they're not like a true perfect comparison for the situation, but it does make me wonder. I'm not adding concern. I'm just wondering, maybe these things are more of an issue than that we are giving them credit for. I was looking at a couple different advanced metrics here to see kind of a general scope of where the math views the Chiefs through 2 weeks. So DVOA, we've talked about that number a bunch on the show. It's efficiency. How efficient are you down to down, 2nd and 1 versus, a run for 4 yards on 2nd and 1 is more valuable than a run for 4 yards on 2nd and 8. That's essentially what these metrics say. They've got the Chiefs a little bit better than middle of the pack offensively. Offense, when you adjust for opponent and weather and all that, 12th in the league. When you don't adjust for that, they are about 9 or 11th in the league. So they're just a little bit above average offensively. Expected points added, EPA, they are dead in the middle. They are the single closest team in the entire NFL to average on rush plays and average on pass plays. It's actually kind of amazing that they're right at the cross section there. This doesn't take into account like tipped balls for interceptions. That doesn't really factor into EPA. So you can't say, oh, well, it's because of this. Now, Kadarius Toney specifically making mistakes, that factors in here. But like the thought of, oh, well, Mahomes threw 8 interceptions, it impacted him like this, that doesn't really factor in. That's why these are complex and why normal people like don't get it and why you don't bring it up on a broadcast, because it's way too in-depth. I mean, I'm talking about numbers too much here. My point is that I do wonder if this time 3 weeks from now, and that's what the next 3 games are for, and thankfully the Chiefs have 3 not especially good opponents coming up in the next 3 weeks. If they look a lot like this and the metrics continue to indicate, hey, this offense is actually just a little above average as opposed to being way better than everyone else, I think then you can dive into asking, okay, why? Why are there fumbling issues? Why are the receivers still struggling? Why are the penalties a bigger problem than normal? Whereas for now, I think it's just curious. I think it's going to take a few more weeks to know, dang, when we saw these things the first 2 weeks, maybe that should have tipped us off to something bigger.
I wonder if it's simply, a talent issue. Right. at some point in time, because okay, let me ask you this. I'll relate it to like golf. Round number 1, I was awful with the driver. I mean, I was spraying it everywhere and it didn't play very well. Well, it's because I was awful off the tee, right? Round number 2, I couldn't putt worth anything. I had like 7 3-putts. What would you consider me? Well, not a very well-rounded golfer, right? You got a mistake in one area that has no aspect in your mistake in another area, right? Like, because that's to me what this Chiefs team is. That goes back to you, is something is just, hey, you know what? A good football player is good at 8 of 9 things, right? A good golfer is good at 8 of 9 things, something of that nature. Well, eventually you just say, well, I'm not great in anything, but something bad can go wrong, because what happened in round 1 was my driver. It was terrible. That's drops, right? And that was the reason they lost there. Like, I didn't score very well because I wasn't in the fairway. I was out of bounds, penalty strokes, but I was really good everywhere else. I fixed that in round number 2. I was great off the tee. Man, I'm hitting fairways and striping it. But the old flat stick, I was terrible. And that's kind of the turnovers and the penalties. Well, eventually, at some point in time, you just say, well, something comes up every single game. Maybe that's just who you are. You can't do everything above average at some point.
So a couple things here. First of all, we are talking about this offense as though we are at a significant crisis point with it. And as the numbers that Brendan laid out, the Chiefs have performed like a league average offense through 2 weeks, essentially. Just like
I'm not on crisis point. I'm just pointing out, like, if it continues to happen, you shouldn't be surprised, because it's already happened twice.
Well, let me do another analogy for you. You did golf. I'm going to stay with like the Dudes Rock outdoor activities analogy. I'll give you a fishing analogy. Let's say you're at a pond and you cast your rod and you cast your line and you pull out an old can of tomatoes that was thrown in the bottom of the pond.
Ew.
And let's say you say, oh, well, that sucks. I was trying to catch fish. I'm not trying to catch this can. Cast your rod again, reel in a second can. You'd be pretty upset. I mean, damn, maybe this is all cans. But
my
one
fishing in Tin Can Alley.
Yeah, my first concern is there's something wrong with his lake.
Well, let's say the next 15 times you cast your rod, you catch trophy bass. Like, delicious grouper. Like, I don't know what I've never been fishing. Let's say you
went grouper to bass.
Let's say you catch some awesome fish the next 15 times. So at the end of the day, are you going to look back and say, man, that was kind of weird when I caught the 2 cans at the beginning, because look at all these great fish I got. Right? So what we're really reacting to is the small sample size. We did the same thing after the Chiefs-Colts game in week 3 last year, where the Chiefs in that game, do you remember that their leading rusher in that game that they lost to what ended up being a wretchedly bad Colts team? Do you remember the leading rusher for the Chiefs in that game was Patrick Mahomes with 26 yards on 4 carries?
Yeah.
You remember Mahomes threw a pick with a chance to go down and win the game. You remember they missed a field goal. They had 17 points in that game. They only had 3 points in the second half. They were not sharp. They went 3 and out to start that game. Like, they weren't sharp. And we probably had a very similar conversation. I'm trying to find what the penalty numbers were in that game, because I am looking at the box.
The one thing about that game, though, I will say,
they committed 6 penalties in that game for 35 yards. They were 3 for 10 on third down.
The one thing I will say is, though, the 2 games prior to that, though, like the game against the Cardinals, they were a juggernaut. So it wasn't quite as...
No, I understand, but you're still working with is a small sample size here. So get out of the lake. Let's get back into the ocean, the 96 start ocean that is Patrick Mahomes' career. You got a lot better chance reeling in the trophy marlin than you do the tin can. So that's why I am not in the least inclined to panic, because I see things that can be fixed. I see things that I think will get better. And I have faith in Patrick Mahomes to ultimately get it right. There are a couple of things I think interesting from the YouTube comments here. And I want to thank some new commenters in the game. Thomas writes, I was more than beyond frustrated with Jawaan Taylor. 5 penalties for him. The false starts being set too far back. It was a bad game for Jawaan Taylor in week 2.
Pulled.
I'm actually, and I don't think that was a performance thing as much as it was we need to settle you down thing.
Calm the nerves.
Calm the waters, and we'll get you back out there. Maybe you're a little overamped or whatever it is. You're frustrated. Let's get you out where you can, do a little less harm to our chances, and we'll get you back in the game.
You suck so bad right now. We need to make a change.
Honestly, I'm more worried about Donovan Smith long term because Donovan Smith always was a guy who got more holding calls than you like, and he's got 2 in 2 weeks. I'm more concerned about that being a problem for the offense than Jawaan Taylor. I think this was not a thing that was an issue until Chris Collinsworth tried to ruin the man's career on the first broadcast of the season, and now he's Mr. Penalty. I think Jawaan Taylor's going to be just fine. If you look at the tape of how he actually played when he wasn't getting penalties, he was dominating, particularly in the pass blocking. So I'm not worried about Jawaan Taylor long term. I think he's going to clean those things up. I think he's going to be fine. A little more worried about Donovan Smith. But again, he's a veteran guy, and teams have won with him and have won with worse at left tackle. The other thing, and Tyler writes this in the YouTube comments. Shout out to Tyler. I'm concerned with the play calling. Not running the ball much always comes back to bite teams when they need to run it. It is a little strange that the Chiefs, with all they've invested in the offensive line, don't seem to be a team capable against a light box, especially, of handing the ball to running back on first down and getting 6 yards. How much easier would life be if you could get that 4, 5, 6 yards consistently on first down? And through 2 weeks, they haven't really shown consistently the ability or the desire, frankly, to do that. I think that is something they have to explore more. I don't know if their running concepts are too easy for teams to pick out, even against a light box. If you know what team's running, you can crash the line and shut that down pretty quick. I don't know if a lot of the run plays are RPOs that Mahomes just decides, what am I leaving this in somebody else's chest for? I'm Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to make a throw. We'll get the 6 yards this way. We use the passing games as an extension of the running game, which the Chiefs do quite a bit. But I would be interested to see how things start to click when they do run the ball more effectively, because that drive to open the second half, one of their best drives of the game on Sunday, they touched that off because they ran the ball for 31 yards to start the drive. Maybe that's confirmation bias. It probably is a little bit, but running the ball will help everything else because you get your offensive line involved, you get them feeling confident, and I think it lifts the huddle. I think it lifts the sideline when you're able to do those things. And I think this team will do those things. They can do these things. We've seen them do these things. Just because you caught 2 tin cans with your first 2 casts doesn't mean it's a lake full of tin cans.
Really quickly to finish off Dan's analogy there. If you wanted to go to Shawnee State Fishing Lake, which is 7.5 miles north and east of Silver Lake, you could catch largemouth bass, crappie, or catfish.
Crappie was definitely what I was thinking of.
Because they played more like.
Yeah, they were crappie, all
they
right.
were crappie.
Yeah.
How about that? Yes. We got plenty more to get to. We'll talk Chris Jones. That'll be coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. K-State, not great news if you're a Cat fan when it comes to the injury front. We'll get to that as well. We'll talk with Matt. Derek will go around the NFL. All that coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll get to some NFL news here in just a little bit. Some games last night. Couple 0-2 teams, couple 2-0 teams that are a bit of a surprise. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. My apologies. Matt Verderame will be coming up at 3:30. I didn't have a chance to talk with Matt yesterday, our NFL insider, so we'll get to that coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. And Michael Swain on all things KU as they take on BYU. Nervous for the BYU game?
No,
No,
I'm not. I am not nervous about games that no, I'm not nervous. No, I'll just leave it there. I'm not nervous.
Are you more nervous with Packer games
Yes.
than why?
Because I have different expectations for them.
Low expectations for KU, and you're just like,
They're lower than my Packers expectations, yeah.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you say that?
If KU went between 6-6 and 8-4 for the rest of time, I'd be thrilled. I'd be happy. Because I'm a realist about the state of college football. And until the Power 2 break off and become their own thing, KU's not a national championship team. It's just not.
Okay.
Like, K-State is in my opinion, like on the fringiest of fringe of being in the conversation for being at their best, they could win a title. Today, like in the past, they have been that close, obviously. But the way college football is set up today. Now, if we end up someday with NFL Junior and the NCAA football, I will feel differently probably. But like, look, dude, I've seen multiple 0-win seasons in the last decade. Like, I'm not going to be choosy. Like, I just want KU to be competitive. I want them to be good. I'm still gonna be up in arms no matter what happens on Saturday.
They don't have a Liberty Bowl in the NFL.
No, and yeah. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to have success in college football, and I feel differently about the two. I will always put more pressure on the Packers than I do on KU.
Okay.
Yeah. I still want KU to be good. I still think BYU can certainly win on Saturday, but I also am of the belief that I don't get nervous for a lot of games that I think my team should be able. Like, I think I have a very realistic expectation for this game in that, like, KU, since they're at home, like 55-ish% chance of winning, 60% chance of winning. BYU, 40-45. Like, I think this is going to be a very close game. I thought BYU really impressed me on Saturday when they beat Arkansas.
Their offensive click.
Really impressed me.
That was one thing that, yes, I will agree with that.
So this isn't a game. Like, I got nervous in the early part of the third quarter Saturday night because I thought, oh my God, it's like the bad days are back. Like, we can't score on Nevada. This isn't good. That was a little more nervous.
That game had a very okay, it's week 3. A lot of crazy stuff has happened already today. Yeah. Is my team going to end up on the same side of it?
Now, let's say we get to the 11th game of the year, KU and K-State. KU is like, I don't know, 9-1 or something. They only lost to Texas. Wow. And they're going into that game. I would be genuinely nervous then for that game.
Okay.
Because I'd think, this is like the difference between
Big 12 title game,
Big 12 title game, New Year's Six Bowl, or Alamo Bowl, or like being in the Armed Forces Bowl. You do have a lot more, because I mean, it really bummed me. It will bum me out if the Chiefs and the Packers ever did play in the Super Bowl and we couldn't watch it together. I wouldn't do it.
See, I wouldn't do it. But if I said, if KU is playing, Missouri in the college football playoff, would you let anybody watch it with you?
No, I wouldn't. I'd watch it alone. My wife could, but that'd be it. That's the order for me of like nervousness and anxiety when I'm watching a game. It's the Packers at the top by a lot.
Okay.
KU basketball, KU football, and then anything else.
Anything else. Okay.
Yeah. Now, October baseball, that probably jumps up to about even with KU basketball. But it's just a matter of expectations. Like, the Packers are a good franchise. They should win Super Bowls. KU basketball is a great franchise. It should win championships. I want KU football to be good. Okay. But I also am not going to suddenly be like, oh man, not going to be one of the message board geniuses who says, man, that went over Nevada. That showed me a lot. I think this team could beat LSU tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to say that. I don't think that's realistic.
I am surprised that KU is a 9-point favorite over BYU.
I'm surprised by that
I
as well.
am surprised at that.
That's a big number for KU to be favored by.
In fact, it is now 9.5.
I think KU could win by that much. I wouldn't pick it.
Yeah.
But I think KU could win by that
I think
much.
they were a little fortunate to beat Arkansas. They had a lower net success rate than Arkansas did in that game. Turnovers obviously were big, but 9.5 is a big number to favor KU by in a conference game. By the way, something that's great for your sports neuroticism is have two of your favorite teams win championships in back-to-back years.
Yeah.
And also have one of them just be completely unserious to the point where I don't care what happens to them anymore.
You've had to see a lot of championships recently.
Yes, I have.
It's been a decade for the Seahawks, but that's not that long.
No, like all the teams I care about winning championships have won championships and like in HD, which is and that's all I really need. And again, the Rockies are unserious. They're never going to do anything. So that's fine.
Have they lost 100 yet?
Not yet, but it's coming. Soon come.
What are they at?
96?
Ooh,
maybe, no. They might be 95.
They got a chance.
94. Then. Sorry,
They got a
56
chance.
and 94.
Yeah, there's only like 10 games left.
7-5 the rest of the way, but they have to play the Padres and the Dodgers, who are much better than they are.
Yeah. Well, I'm cheering for you.
And the Cubs, who are also better.
Says a Cubs fan
not,
over who's
not
like,
the last
no, my
couple
team
weeks.
is trash. Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, my team is at 103 losses already.
102.
102.
Yeah,
they won 5 of 6.
One of I don't care. Don't care. Who's pitching tonight? Nobody cares.
Steven
Cruz.
He's the opener.
Steven Cruz. No one cares. Don't care.
So rude.
Sorry.
Steven Cruz's mother cares.
Well, good for Steven Cruz's mother. I would be, or family, friends, high school teammates, and such.
Someone cares.
Coming up next.
There's someone out there who doesn't care about the Chiefs and went to like Sterling, like just for college, not because they're a sports fan.
Yeah.
Like college sports doesn't matter, and they're not really an NFL fan.
Oh, the sports ball people.
And I was going to say, like, they live for the Royals. Like, there is someone, there might be someone listening to this very show right now who's like, I get it, but like, what if we talked a little more Royals? Because they live and die for it.
Guys, Bobby Witt Jr. doesn't strike out anymore.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. We should be talking about this.
Yeah, I know you folks exist. I know it.
Yeah, we hear you guys. We acknowledge you. We love you.
I'm sorry, your favorite team.
They're 49 and 102, bro. Like, there's just so much we can say about them.
Sorry. Coming up, we're going around the NFL. What happened last night? Surprise starts. We'll get to all that coming up next. the NFL today. The doubleheader yesterday involved a couple of honestly not well played games.
Once the Pittsburgh-Cleveland game started, I did not turn it back on the New Orleans-Carolina game one time.
That is undefeated Derek Carr led New Orleans Saints, by the way.
Tell you this much, it ain't because of Derek Carr. That defense is nasty, though.
All right, I'll start with this. Saints, Commanders, Falcons, Bucks. They're all 2-0. Are you buying any of them? Any one of those that where you say, yeah, I think that they could be a contender?
No. Like,
what, contender for a Super Bowl? Or like being relevant in the playoffs?
Yeah, like 3 of those teams are in the NFC South. Like one of those 3 is probably going to, it has to go by rule to the playoffs.
One of those teams or any of these teams that, you know what, I can see them winning the division, obviously, and there's 3 of them in the same division. I understand that. But also, I can see them pulling off an upset. I can see them being the 4 seed and winning a home game against,
Dallas or Philadelphia
or Philly or, Seattle or, maybe the Packers if they make it there. Like, do you think they can pull off a win? Like beating the Giants last year. They beat the Vikings on the road in the playoffs.
I think for me, of that group of 4, I think you could make an argument, like a credible argument for 2 of them that they could do that for sure. For 3 of them, somewhat realistically, I don't think the Commanders have that. But by the same token, I think the Commanders are the most interesting team of any of them.
Yeah, I think they're the best team.
The problem is they're in the
because I think they have
division.
I think they have a genuinely outstanding defensive line. Chase Young came back from injury, had a sack and a half against the Broncos. Deron Payne's a really good player.
Yeah.
I think they're really good up front. They impact the game in that way. I think they can run the ball. They've got a playmaking wide receiver.
A couple playmaking receivers.
They've got an offensive coordinator that got a lot of regard for in Eric Bieniemy. But I'm sorry, man. The starting quarterbacks for these teams are Derek Carr, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, and Baker Mayfield. You are not doing anything when the calendar flips to January with somebody of that caliber as your quarterback. You're just not.
I think, there are flaws for all of these teams. Like the Saints, I think, have the best chance to do something legitimate because they've got a bunch of playmakers around Derek Carr.
And I think Derek Carr's the best quarterback out of the 4.
That ain't saying much.
Well,
I agree, but somebody's got to be the.
They also don't have their best offensive player because he's suspended because he punched a guy at a hotel and then kicked him a bunch of times on the ground.
You probably didn't need to do that.
No, he probably should not have done that.
That's Alvin Kamara, for those of you wondering.
Yeah, so the Saints are going to get their best player back in 2 weeks. Best offensive player, excuse me. And their defense is legit. That is a really nasty defense. Cam Jordan. Still, timeless.
Still really damn good.
Yeah. The Falcons they've actually improved their defense a little bit. They don't have like insane talent. They've got a bunch of young, impressive talent, but nothing that's like nailed on. They have one of the coolest offenses in the league. They are the closest thing we have to a college offense in the NFL. And look, the Bucs are run by a dope. Like, I think Todd Bowles is a terrible head coach, but like their 2 best wide receivers are as good as almost any pair of wide receivers in the NFL. Their offensive line is still good enough that it won't get Baker killed. As long as Baker doesn't do what he did his last year in Cleveland, they can put up some points. And their defense still has some pieces. So I don't like the Bucs, but I'm kind of intrigued by the Bucs. I'd say they're my number 2 most interesting team here after the Commanders.
Right.
They've been very turnover fortunate the first 2 weeks.
True.
That bears mentioning. They scored a defensive touchdown in their last game, so the offense has been right about 20 points a game.
The worst pick six I've ever seen.
Also, the opponents that they have played, also not great.
I have been watching video of the Bears offense because it's all over the internet. Because everybody with a Twitter account that knows anything about football is taking video of the Bears offense and
laughing at it,
saying, "Bro, what am I looking at?"
I told you last week that JT O'Sullivan, the QB school guy, did an hour-long breakdown of the Bears-Packers game for the Bears offense, just roasting them and cussing at them. This week's was an hour and a half. It was a movie. You have to go to a cinema and watch that.
Yeah, why would you do that to yourself?
Why would you do that? I guess when people pay for your Patreon, you got to give them something. But oh my God.
Hey, by the way, for those of you wondering, the Chiefs play the Bears on Sunday, and they are a 12.5-point favorite. Let's go to the news yesterday that to be determined if Joe Burrow is going to play on Monday night. If the Bengals start 0-3, when is it oh dear for the Bengals? And keep in mind, the Bengals still have to play the Chiefs, Buffalo, the Jags, the 49ers, the Ravens again, the Steelers again.
They got the Seahawks.
And the Seahawks.
They got
first place schedule.
Got the Browns.
You know, like
who own the Bengals.
Think about that. That's 7 teams right there. That when do you start going, oh dear, if you are? And that's why I said on this show on September August 1st? August 1st. Joe Burrow's got a calf injury. That is a problem. Those type of injuries are a problem.
I will say this, and this is a little bit of a stretch.
0-3 making the playoffs in a 16-game season is a death sentence. 17, little different, but their division is the second hardest division to me in the NFL.
Well, I told Danny yesterday on the show when we were shortened by the Royals game, if Burrow can't play Monday, I'd put him on IR. I know you do not want to waste a year of this much talent that is still relatively inexpensive. And the other thing, and I didn't even mention this yesterday, you always are running the risk that your defensive coordinator, who for some reason still isn't a head coach and probably should be, gets hired away to be a head coach somewhere. I think Anarumo will get a shot at some point. You don't want to waste your last year of T. Higgins. I get that. I'm putting Burrow on IR because that's the franchise. If he can't go, I'm not taking any chances. Here's the worst case scenario for the Bengals, though. It's not that they're terrible. In fact, being terrible would be better than if they're even like
mediocre.
Yeah,
they get a better draft.
Because then they could go get the thing that they have been missing, and that is a franchise offensive lineman.
Or look what happened last time. Burrow got hurt, missed the whole year, and they ended up with Jamar Chase the next year.
Well, okay, that's the tree I'm barking up. I would rather be 1-16 if I'm the Bengals than 4-13. And you know why? 1-16 gets me a top 3 pick.
Or 7-9, and you miss the playoffs and you pick 15th.
You're going to lose T. Higgins after this year, right?
Yeah. Do you trade T. Higgins at the trade deadline?
No, this is a go for it year. Even if Burrow has to miss, like let's say you put him on short-term IR and he misses 4 weeks. Let's say he misses Rams, Titans, Cardinals, Seahawks. It's not out of the question he could get 2 of those, but 2 and 4 is a tough spot to be in. And be playing catch up in that division, that's not ideal by any means. But you still feel like with Joe Burrow, you're going to be a favorite in a lot of games, and you're going to have a chance to get to 9-8, 10-7, and make the playoffs. And then all you need is your ticket, and you have the talent. You've been to a Super Bowl with this core. You're still trying to do that, even in a worst case scenario.
It's too bad that you can't IR like retroactive, like the IL in baseball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if they start 0-3, I don't want to say that they're cooked because it's a 17-game schedule. We've only had 3 seasons with 17 games. But man, the Bengals
they are the only team since 2020 to make the playoffs starting 0-2. Yep. What I was going to say though, by the way, if you're going to be terrible, like if Burrow has to miss a prolonged period of time, you want to be terrible. You know why? You're going to lose T. Higgins and draft a better player. Top 2 players going to this year's draft are going to be Drake May and Caleb Williams. You know who the best overall possibly player and the number 3 pick is going to be? It's going to be a guy who plays in the state of Ohio right now.
Well, and even if
you're going to improve, you get a top 3 pick, your team's going to get better.
Well, they're not going to be that bad.
Maybe they should be.
But to me, even if you're not that low key, Marvin Harrison Jr.'s teammate might be the second best wide receiver in college football because he's really damn good too. Amekia, how do you pronounce the last name? Egbuka. Yeah, he's really good too. Last night, the world got turned upside down when Nick Chubb hurt his knee. And when I say hurt his knee, I think I'm doing a disservice to it. His knee exploded. That was hard to watch. I didn't see it live, but then all of a sudden it popped up on my phone, and I didn't know what it was.
I blocked about 45 Twitter accounts last night. I saw like, here's the video blocked.
Well,
instantly.
I did not know.
Honestly,
I didn't know what happened, so I just watched it. I was like, oh my.
So if you've seen it, then can you confirm for me, who has not seen it, that it was similar to Willis McGahee?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly
Okay.
like Willis
So that
McGahee.
was kind of what I
exactly like Willis McGahee.
suspected by some of the descriptions.
Yes.
I will tell you, what was worse than seeing the replay was hearing the crowd at Acrisure Stadium respond to seeing the replay in the stadium. The revulsion and horror that you heard
And that's an
from
opponent.
70,000 people all at once, that was stomach turning. And you just feel terrible for Nick Chubb, who has gone through this injury to this knee already in his football career. He's 28 years old. You just hope we get to see him out there again doing what he does best, because he's one of the best to do it in this era.
He's a top 5 running back in the league.
Yeah.
I do think that. That was tough to see. And now you've got the people going, they need to outlaw that play. It should be treated like a cut block or a high-low block.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. How else are you supposed to tackle Nick Chubb?
You don't. And that's the reason why. And people are talking about, this is why running backs need to have guaranteed contracts and all of that. And look,
That's not how it works, man.
That's not the game. Like, people are, we got to get rid of the drop. Remember the Mahomes rolled ankle, Arden Key did the drop tackle. Like, that's part of, you can only make a game that is a collision game so safe.
Yeah. Like,
it's just
like trying to make a safer cigarette, right? You can't do it.
it sucks for Chubb, but
It does.
I mean, eventually you're going because the same people are going to say, let's put flags and a skirt on the quarterback, and then say, we can't have tackles like this. It's always the same people who have the worst opinions on the thing and contradictory opinions on it at the same time. It's a tackle game.
Yep.
You can't take every tackle out of it.
No, you can't. Also, the Deshaun Watson might be cooked.
No, it's not mine. He sucks. He's a bad quarterback. Bad guy, bad quarterback, mega pervert, and he's a moron. He's a mega pervert, bad quarterback.
Man,
idiot.
He looks like he's Russell
He
Wilson.
stinks.
I do not like, as a general rule, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was out there cheering for them to sack the nasty man like they were.
Why does everybody you don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers? Like, there are a lot of people who don't like the Steelers. Why? To me, I'm just
his dad's a Steelers fan.
He was like a little, like, I got to go against the.
I will never forgive the NFL for handing Super Bowl 40 to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Also that.
I will never forgive the NFL for that.
I have a somewhat soft. My grandpa, my mom's dad, was from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So I've always been cool with the Steelers.
Well, I was treating them like they were the Toon Squad and going up against the Monstars for the fate of the universe last night. Every time they got pressure on the nasty man, I wanted to see the sex pervert eat dirt. And it was extremely satisfying to watch him
take that out of the equation right now. Imagine that he is a guy on a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
Like, they gave him a guaranteed $200-some million
$230 million.
And he looks washed.
Yeah, he does.
He looks like he is a bad quarterback. Like, if you looked at him and Derek Carr, or you looked at him and, like Russell Wilson last year.
Here, you said you wanted to just
like wow.
Take away the fact that he's the nasty man and just look at him on a spreadsheet.
Yes.
How about this? I'm looking at a spreadsheet right now. I'm literally looking at the EPA numbers for the entire NFL starting quarterbacks right now. Your bottom 3 quarterbacks in the NFL this season: Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson. Those are your 3. That guy, Mr. $230 million guaranteed, is as bad as Zach Wilson.
His cap hit is $60 million.
Yeah, they're stuck with him.
Wow.
They could have just kept Jacoby Brissett, and they'd probably be about a 9-8, maybe 10-7 caliber team. And
he wouldn't fumble.
And they'd be way more likable. Way more likable.
I mean, his cap hit right now, this year, is the super cheap year. It's $19 million. You ready for this? Next year, 63, 25, 63, 26, 63.
Good luck with that.
Stuck with him. Coming up, we'll get to Chris Jones, and we'll talk with Matt Verderame. 2, 580 Sports Talk on the air on this Tuesday. Thank you so much for stopping by. Jake LeBon, Brendan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero here on Huntoon Hill. We've got Royals baseball tonight. They just made some moves, and outside of the people that Brendan and Dan talked about who are like diehard Royals fans, no one really cares. But it is they're going for the series win against the Guardians tonight.
They're going for it, folks.
So we got that going for us. But we got lots to get to. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Check us out on YouTube. Hit us up in the comments section. Go to youtube.com. Search 580 Sports Talk. Hit the subscribe button. Let us know. You can interact with us as well. We got Random Question Tuesday. Matt Verderame. I suppose here are the Royals' moves. Jonathan Bolin is recalled from AAA Omaha. Anthony Venziano selected from AAA Omaha.
Fulton Castro was very excited about the chance of seeing
Fulton is
Veneziano.
one of these guys that's still ride or dying with the Royals right now.
He is.
He was tweeting about the Royals game the other day. I think it might have been on Saturday. And I meant to text him and be like, dude, are you okay?
I missed that guy. Placed on 15-day IL, Brady Singer. His season is over. Brad Keller placed on the 15-day IL. His season is over.
His Royals career is over.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
And
it's TOC, or TOS, thoracic outlet syndrome for Keller. His career is very much up in the air, which is very sad.
And Matt Beatty designated for assignment. It finally took until September 19th for that to occur.
How many bats did Matt Beatty get with
Too many.
Kansas City Royals?
Too many. The answer is too many.
The actual answer,
if it's more than
scoring
30,
at home,
is it more than 30?
67 plate appearances.
Okay.
He had a 358 on base percentage. That would be by miles the best on the team if he had qualifying at bats.
He doesn't, though.
Bad. Let's play a quick game. Dan, I know you have his stats up. Close them momentarily. Who finished the year with a higher OPS plus for the Royals? Matt Beatty or Jackie Bradley Jr.?
Oh, Matt Beatty.
Yeah. JBJ was awful.
JBJ's OPS was like 12.
No,
9.
it was like 8. I was going to say it was like
I gave
8.
him too much credit.
I
I went
say
over.
8.
You win the showcase
I
showdown.
was going to say 8.
Dog, he had 113 plate appearances for the Royals.
Played a great center field though, man. He was terrific out there.
Man. So the Royals are in action tonight.
The only player with a higher on base percentage for the Royals this year than Beatty's 358 is Nick Lofton with a 400 on base in 40 plate appearances.
Nice.
Hey, Nick Lofton should have gotten every one of those Matt Beatty appearanries because at least Nick Lofton might. This is way too much Royals talk that I wanted to talk about right now. So we're going to move on from the Royals because no.
What do you think the hype level is going to be for you come March?
Oh, it's bad, guys. This is they broke me. They broke me. Like, you ready for this? Here's my hype level for March. Let me see what you do in April because I sure know that you can play semi-okay when it doesn't matter. When it matters, y'all stink.
Real quick.
You're going to be playing Jumper from Third Eye Blind because, you know what? No, it's not even that. It's going to be like, I need something like, is there a song that's like aloofness and who cares? And I'll see it when I believe it. Something of that nature.
You ever heard of emo?
But most of that's not quite the I don't know.
By the way, there is something worth paying attention to with the Kansas City Royals.
Does Bobby Witt hit 30 home runs? That's it.
Incorrect. No, not what I'm worried about. The last day before the season started, I'll take you back to March 29th, I believe it was. Dan and I gave bold predictions for the season. Yours truly said the Royals would have a winning record in the month of September. Through 16 games, they are 8-8. 12 games remain.
Nice.
Royals win
I pulled
watch.
up from 91 feet and chucked that one.
I think I predicted that Pasquantino was going to make the All-Star game. So,
Hey, look, he was legitimately really good before he got hurt.
Yeah.
Swings and roundabouts. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
April All-Star Vinny Pasquantino.
Correct. Yes, he was crushing it for sure.
Jackie Bradley Jr.
My
was on
prediction,
this team.
my bold prediction was that Bobby Witt was going to be a 30-30 guy. No, I can't. That's a lie. That's a total lie.
Did you make one?
Yeah,
You looked dead in the camera and said that too.
Yeah.
Lied to the people.
No, my bold predictions were that I can probably go look them up. I know one of them was Vinny Pasquantino was going to be a top 10 hitter in baseball. And he was on pace, honestly, to do that. And then he got hurt. I don't remember my other one.
We'll have to go dig those up for the end of the season when we do a full on real postmortem.
I think
I've got Jackie Bradley Jr.'s Fangraphs page up, man. They let this man play for a quarter of the year.
Drew Waters was hurt. They had no choice.
He had a WRC plus of 2. League average is 100.
let's see here.
2.
Oh no. Oh no.
What did you predict?
Oh no. I bought into the Kool-Aid real bad. Vinny Pasquantino will be a top 10 hitter in the AL this year.
Whoa. All right.
And he was.
He was really good at the start.
Yes, he was. The Royals will get 2 All-Stars this year. Did not happen.
No.
Can I give you a terrible Jackie Bradley stat?
Hold on. I got my last one. Ready for this?
Uh-huh.
Brad Keller will lead the Royals in wins.
Oof.
He led them in a different W category for a while.
Brad Keller.
Fulton. MJ Melendez will hit 35 home runs.
Not quite.
Daniel Lynch will have an ERA under 3.5.
No.
And the Royals will finish 3rd in the Central.
No.
Yeah.
Nuts. Here's my last sad Jackie
All
Bradley
right,
Jr.
this
stat.
is it. We're done talking about the Royals after this.
Jackie Bradley Jr. had a better B-WAR than the following Royals. Taylor Clark, who is still on the team. MJ Melendez. Nick Prado. And he was 4 times better than Jordan Lyles. Jordan Lyles, negative 1.6.
And Jordan Lyles might be the
B-WAR.
worst player in baseball this year. All right, let's move to maybe the best player in the NFL. And his name is Chris Jones.
All right.
All right.
Best defensive tackle in the NFL?
Right now, yeah.
Okay, there we
Willing
go.
to have that conversation.
Okay. Chris Jones, according to PFF and their metrics, Chris Jones had a pass rush win rate of 38%. That is the best in the NFL in week 2.
That's pretty good.
Do you know who else played the game of football in week 2? Micah Parsons, who right now is a monster. Chris Jones had a better pass rush win rate than he did. I'm going to keep going with this. A different view of this when it comes to this. It says here, Chris Jones racked up 40.7% when it comes to pass rush win rate. He only played in 34 snaps. He played in 51% of the snaps, and he was an absolute monster. He played in 80% of the snaps last year, which I'm surprised he played in that many of the snaps.
Yeah,
last year. That's very high for a defensive tackle, by the way.
Yeah.
Imagine if he played 15 more snaps in the game. When he gets fully healthy, how much more and how much better this defense is going to be. Like, he dominated the game on Sunday in the trenches. He was everywhere. That is, we're already seeing Chris Jones' contract year looking good. He needs now 8.5 sacks the rest of the way to get $1 million. And to hit technically only needs, I just need him to get 10 sacks because that's what I bet on. Because I thought he'd be, there week 1, but he's back week 2. So we are good to go when it comes to that. But Chris Jones was incredible in the game. Does this have any impact on his potential future with the Chiefs?
The short answer for me is no.
Does him being so good make the Chiefs say, yeah, you're worth the money? Or is it like, no, we've already evaluated you. This year doesn't count.
I mean, he's coming off 15.5 sacks. Like, it's not as though what we're seeing or what we saw in week 2 was an undiscovered level of production from Chris Jones. We've seen him do this to teams. We've seen him have games where he is singularly so disruptive, where when the defense needed a big play, he's the one that made it. What do you have? I think he had a sack and a half.
Yes.
Weren't both of those plays on third downs? Because he got a half a sack for the play that got reviewed and it turned into a fumble by I think he got a half a sack for that, didn't he?
I don't know if he did.
I'll go check the play-by-play from Pro Football Reference. I thought he got half a sack for that. Yes, he did. Well, it did go in the book as a sack, but yes, and that was a half a sack for Jones and Felix. And Felix got credit for the forced fumble. So that was a big play, obviously, for Jones. What was the other big third down play he made? He deflected the pass on 3rd and 14. Dan Orlovsky did a film breakdown on that play that essentially showed that was probably a walk-in 69-yard touchdown, the way they set that play up, and Jones deflected that. That was a big third down play. And then I think in the first half, he had a big one too. A big third down play for the defense.
He was.
It's just what he does
all over the place. So the reason I wonder if the Chiefs will look at this and say he's still so good.
But what has changed?
That's what I'm wondering. You know,
I don't think, like, okay, go from last year to this year. Is Chris Jones still? Last season was Chris Jones the best defensive tackle in the NFL?
Oh, by far.
Is he still?
Yeah, I think so.
Is he still going to be 30 next year?
Not unless he figures out how to figure out the flux capacitor.
Have the Chiefs given any indication that they have changed their opinion on defensive players past the age of 30?
No.
Then why would it change? And I'm not being critical of your question. It's an important question to ask. I'm just responding with, I don't see any reason why things would have. Like, the Chiefs know what they have. No one sees Chris Jones more than Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo.
I look at it this way. I think there is a 2% chance that he re-signs with the Chiefs. And here's the reason why. If you were going to re-sign him, you would have done it already. You would have already done it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. And that's why
already done it. And the reason why is not because of this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's because his cap hit would be lowered already. Like, that's the only thing that they would try to do this year. They would have already done it this year. Because you add 2 more years or 3 more years onto his contract, and you can move the cap money around. The cap money does not affect his money. That's the reason why I don't see the Chiefs ever signing Chris Jones. And so however good he is, to me, just gives you the potential of tagging him and trading him in the offseason. The only negative there is you have to end up finding $30 million in cap space.
Yeah, if you have good accountants, you can do it. Honestly, I'm not worried at all about that.
That's the only reason why.
They pay Chris Shea a lot of money to figure this stuff out. I'm not worried about that, honestly. Plus, they already have $50 million clear next year of the current projected cap. They're already $50 million clear.
So they'd be only $20 million clear.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
That's the only thing. The better he plays, the more of a better draft pick you will get if you tag Chris Jones.
See, I don't know if that's true though. Like,
well, if he plays if let's say he gets like 5 sacks this year, do you think that's going to help him?
No, but I don't think
like
it needs to be like, man, if he doesn't hit 15.5 again, the Chiefs aren't getting a first-round pick. Like, the league knows what he is. Like, he's going to get paid a lot of money by someone.
Yeah, I don't really feel like this is a price of the brick going up kind of situation with Chris Jones, because
I think the price is already up.
Yes, this is a known commodity. A lot of guys go into contract years. We're talking about their first chance to go get a bag, like D Ford.
D Ford
is a perfect example of this. D Ford balled the hell out in his contract year, right? Had a terrific season. Like, the Chiefs don't make it to the AFC Championship game without the contributions of D Ford. And maybe they win it without the contributions of D Ford in a very different way in that fourth quarter. 5-5, and he's offsides. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate coda to D Ford's.
What an unbelievable thing to say about someone you were teammates with for years.
5-5. The 5-5 and he ain't offside was the best part of that first parade, followed very closely by Kelsey shouting out all the World War I veterans.
Think he remembers any of it?
Absolutely not. No memory unless you show him video and play him tape. But anyway, D Ford. Perfect example. That was a guy who the way he performed drove the price up. And it drove the price up to a point where the Chiefs looked at it and said, yeah, we're not quite willing to do this. We'd rather go get somebody who's a bit more of a proven pass rushing commodity. So they tag and trade D Ford, and Ford got his money from the 49ers, and God bless him for getting his money because he sure didn't play up to the contract as a member of the San Francisco 49ers. And the Chiefs turned around and gave more money than they were going to give to Ford to a guy who had a more proven track record in Frank Clark. So there's not a guy, like, this is not an apples to apples comparison because the Chiefs aren't going to turn around on this next year's market and find a guy they like better than Chris Jones. But I say all that to say this isn't a D Ford situation where the better he played, the more value he earned, the more money he earned himself. This is Chris Jones going for his second contract. We know exactly who this man is. We know exactly how good he is. We know exactly what he can do at his best. And we've seen him be one of the best players repeatedly rather than, oh, it's my contract here. It's time to go earn a bag.
I still think he has to play at an elite level for the Chiefs to get a better than expect, because this is the one thing that I have seen some analysts say, well, you get a first rounder for Chris Jones. I've seen some say the most you're going to get is a third rounder. That is a wide gap, by the way. That's a wide gap.
My counter to that would be, and yeah, I mean, if those are the only, he doesn't get another sack all year and he's terrible, okay, yeah, that's obviously going to hurt you. But if he's even just like good, if he's getting you 8 sacks and he's an a Pro Bowler and a second team All Pro or something, like, what about that year is going to cost you if you move him? Like, so everybody knows you're going to trade him. And a team says, yeah, well, he only had 8.5 sacks, but if he had 10 last year, maybe we'd offer you a first. You know what the Chiefs are going to say? All right, who are you going to go get? And have fun picking up Derek Nottie instead. Why
did Derek Nottie take a stray there?
Because Derek Nottie can't rush the passer. Like, here are the number of players that are like Chris Jones in the NFL who are available.
Need like another, free agent.
I know Derek Nottie. He's there.
Wrong,
he's also
man.
a free agent. And he's here. Maybe Christian Wilkins, who's a good player, who also sticks his fingers in people's pants, but that's a different story. He's not as good as Chris Jones. Dexter Lawrence, locked up. Quinnen Williams, locked up. All of the Javon Hargrave, locked up.
Darren Payne.
Daron Payne. Fletcher Cox ain't going. He's either going to Philly again or he's retiring. Yeah. That's it.
All those guys got the bag last offseason. There is not really much of a market. Chris Jones is going to hit the market as a one of one. There's not going to be a great value Chris Jones that you can acquire
good for the role, or
equal or lesser value.
Good for the
it's it. Like, there's no there. I'm going to look this up because I don't want to be wrong. But as far as I am aware, there is no allegory. Like, if you had been a team looking for a defensive tackle this year, it's like, well, we have the money. We could go get Lawrence or Wilkins or Payne or Hargrave. Like, that's a lot of really good players. Those teams are all smart to snap those guys up. If you want the best of the best, your option is Chris Jones. Here are the other guys who are free agents next year, okay? Unrestricted free agents next year. DJ Reader, Grover Stewart, again, Fletcher Cox. He's going to go back to Philly, or he's probably going to retire, I would imagine. Sheldon Rankins, Austin Johnson. You know who that is?
I do not know.
Neither do I. I don't even know who Austin Johnson is. Daquan Jones, Ashawn Robinson, who is famous because he went to Alabama and he's 8 feet tall, but he's just an okay NFL player.
He's always looked like he was in his mid-50s.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another former Chief. You want another former Chief? You want to go get Raheem Nunez-Roches after this year?
Rock.
Go for it. Otherwise, you're going to pay us the max value because we've got this guy up. I don't want to say up for sale. That sounds inappropriate. But like we've got this guy available.
You do for
if we're going to
give us a draft pick. Yeah.
Hassan Ridgeway. Like, congrats. Al Woods is 97 years old, but he'll still suit up and stuff the run for you if you want. Go ahead and sign that guy for a vet minimum. You want a pass rushing interior guy? You can either get the dude who's going to put his finger in your pants, Christian Wilkins, or you can have a truly elite interior rusher, and you're going to pay top dollar.
You know what else I think has a chance to make some money now after I'm seeing that? Mike Dana. Because I take Dana over all those dudes.
Yeah, well, I mean, different positions.
Yeah.
Defensive ends who are available. Yeah, I mean, even there's not a ton of dudes who are going to be available.
She might get something nice.
Leonard Williams is probably the best one, and he's a 3-4 end. Ooh, although local guy, well, played college locally. Dorrance Armstrong is going to get paid this year.
Yes, he is.
He's going to get paid.
Coming up next, we've got Random Question Tuesday, and then we'll talk with Matt Verderame. Random Question Tuesday, before we talk with Matt Verderame on all things the NFL. All right, what do you got?
Happy Talk Like a Pirate Day, September 19th every year. Arr. Talk Like a Pirate Day. Who's your favorite pirate?
Roberto Clemente.
All right.
Good answer. Good answer. Survey says. That's a strong answer.
If you want to go like, arr, it's either Jack Sparrow or Captain Hook.
Okay. Not a real pirate? Not like Blackbeard, Calico Jack, Anne Bonny.
What about the guy off of Captain Phillips?
The guy who goes, look at me. I am the captain now. I had that same thought. Yeah, no, that's up there. That's up there as the best pirate quotes.
For me, it's a tie between Andrew McCutcheon and Steve the Pirate from Dodgeball.
Steve the Pirate. And then at the end, they're like, hey, Steve the Pirate. And he cut his hair.
Yeah.
Now you get it.
We've got one from Vance on YouTube. He goes with Captain Morgan.
Or Sailor Jerry.
Great answer.
Or Admiral Nelson.
Great answer from the 785 on the text line. Mike Leach.
All right, good one.
Man.
Admiral Nelson was a real person, though, and he wasn't a pirate. He was like a British nobleman of the sea.
I was just going knockoff rum companies.
Willie Stargell rakes on MLB The Show if you want to hear.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I did like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
I liked the first one. I saw the second one. I was like, yeah, this is okay. And then I never
Yes.
saw another one after that. The first one's really good, though.
I think the number one pirate that people remember probably Captain Hook.
Probably.
Blackbeard.
Blackbeard. Was it Captain Kidd?
Davy Jones.
Yeah, he had a locker. Very famous. Yeah, well, there you go. I had this sick T-shirt as a kid from Savannah, Georgia that had pirate flags on it. It was awesome.
I'm trying to think of other pirate movies.
Pirate movies?
Yeah. Like famous pirates and movies. Am I forgetting some?
I don't think so.
We
Covered
have
a lot of ground.
Treasure Island. Multiple versions of Treasure Island.
Yep. All right, and what do you got?
Patrick Mahomes is on every commercial these days.
Yes.
Which Patrick Mahomes commercial is your favorite?
I still like the bath bomb one. The one where the weird guy comes up and says, "Who's ready for their jazz bath?" That one is so off the wall. I find that one to be very funny.
I think it's gotta, but Reed steals the show, man. It's the mustache one. Coach, it happened to me again. He throws the pen really fast. Like Reed steals the show, but he's the number one,
I am
endorser right now.
I like the new one for State Farm with Travis Kelce or Travis Maotto, where Mahomes tries to convince him that should be his name because they're the best bundle in the league, Mahomes and Maotto. And
I haven't seen that one.
yeah,
yet.
they ran that a couple times during week 2. And Travis Kelce says, "Well, why do I have to change my name? Why can't it be Kelsey and see how much you can save when you bundle your home and auto insurance?"
Mahomes and
Then you hear the coach in the back, "Mahomes, Maotto, let's go." Mahomes goes, "Yeah, man, put the jersey on. Let's go."
I gotta look this
That's
up now.
funny. I didn't. Okay,
I
so
haven't seen that one.
I saw that ad the other day, but it was on mute on our TV because I was second screening the Chiefs, so I didn't hear what the ad was.
So yeah, Kelsey's running out there with the jersey says Maotto on the back.
That's pretty funny.
Really funny. What's the word? New pseudonym.
Maotto.
New pseudonym for Travis Kelce to go along with Sucre Wolodarski and Kurt Lightning and all those others.
Yeah.
El Travador.
The Andy Reid saying, "Let's see what those nuggies." That's still so funny. But Reid kind of steals the show there.
I do like the bit in the new NFL ads for the year, just like the general league promos where they're doing the writers meeting for the script.
Yeah.
And the woman says, "What if we just wrote out the Mahomes character?"
Everybody's like, "That's a great idea. Yeah, do that."
He's like, whoa. Wait,
Jamar
wait.
Chase is like, "Yeah, good idea."
Whoa. No, that is, yeah. He's turned into just the endorser.
And he's
right
putting
now.
his homies on. He did a Subway commercial with Chad Henne.
Yeah. As his backup.
Have you been back there this whole time? He's getting better. Like, if they win another Super Bowl, I bet he does Saturday Night Live.
He needs to do goofy stuff. Like when he's
Yeah.
just reading lines for a bank or whatever, or community, whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
The Community America Bank.
yeah, it does nothing for me. If he's acting like a doofus, though, that's
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Coming up next, we're going to talk with Matt Verderame on all things NFL. Talking all things NFL with our NFL insider from Sports Illustrated and SI.com. He is Matt Verderame. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, first question I've got for you. Bigger deal, the Chiefs have a real legit good defense, or the Chiefs offense is in kind of quicksand right now?
I think long term, it's the defense. I mean, listen, the offense will figure it out. I don't know what it'll be this week, next week, whatever. There's going to come a point where they average like 40 points per game for 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, it's inevitable. They have Mahomes, they have Kelsey, they've got Andy Reid calling the plays, great offensive line. That team, they're going to get going offensively. I don't worry about that. Defensively, we talked a lot throughout the offseason, and I really felt strongly that this could be a defense that was a borderline top 10 defense. Well, to this point, they're better than that. And that is a damn good Jaguars offense. And they couldn't do anything. I mean, they kicked 3 field goals, one of which was gifted to them on a muffin. Against Detroit, they didn't even have Chris Jones. And Detroit is a top 5 offense from a year ago. They scored 14 points. So if Kansas City keeps playing like this on defense, they're going to be pretty tough to beat on a week in, week out basis. I don't see too many teams holding the Chiefs down. Yes, it's been a struggle at this point offensively, but a lot of that has been self-inflicted. I mean, you look even last week, 12 penalties. Week prior, 9 drops. That's stuff that is not going to happen throughout the course of the season.
When it comes to Chris Jones, did you expect that performance?
Yeah, pretty much. I know enough about the man and the way he trains to know he was going to be in shape. And he's motivated because he is a free agent next year, or at least slated to be one. And he did not get the contract he wanted. And so he's now got to earn money back through incentives. Yeah, I expected him to be good. He was fantastic. He had a sack and a half. He was a huge part of another sack with Karlaftis and Dana, who ended up splitting it on the first possession. He was everywhere. He had a batted pass. He had, a couple more quarterback hits. He was everything that you'd expect. And I got to tell you, speaking of the defense and Chris Jones in particular, this is going to be an interesting stretch for them because, boy, they could get real fat. I mean, they've got the Bears coming in this week. You can make an argument, and I would make the argument, the Bears are the worst team in the NFL right now. And they cannot block. The Jets are not the worst team in the NFL. They're not particularly good without Aaron Rodgers, and they can't block. Then you go to Minnesota. Minnesota can't block at all in the interior. And then you get Denver 2 of the next 3 weeks, and Denver can't block. So this could be a month and a half coming up here where the Joneses and the Karlaftis and eventually when Menahu gets back, Dan, they just tee off. It could be a very, very nice time for the Chiefs defensive front here over these next 6 games or so.
I'll ask one question. Are you surprised about the Chiefs and the Bears? Are you surprised that the Chiefs are only favored by 12? Because I don't see how the Bears are going to do anything.
Well, it's early, and Vegas doesn't like to put out huge spreads. Like if these 2 teams were playing, let's say Chiefs playing take better offensively, and the Bears are playing like this, and this is week 8, it'd be like a 17-point spread. So I think there's a little bit of, hey, maybe the Bears are a little bit better than they've shown. I just look. We saw last year in week 3, the Chiefs played a horrific Colts team, and not only didn't cover, lost. This is at home, and this Bears team is so anemic. I think it really would genuinely take the Chiefs almost like throwing the game to lose this game. I just don't see anybody. I could see it being like the game last year with the Chiefs and the Rams at Arrowhead, where the Rams were missing everybody, and the Chiefs just kind of muddled through the game. They ended up winning by 16 points, but they weren't overly impressive. I could see the Chiefs kind of having a game like that where they're completely disinterested. I could also, to be fair, though, see the Chiefs having a game where they go, hey, guys, this is a game to get right, and they win 45-7. So this is a nice matchup for Kansas City.
We're chatting with Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, joining us on Tuesday this week instead of his usual Monday, since we were short yesterday. You can go find Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderame, and of course, his work can be found at SI.com and in Sports Illustrated. Matt, through 2 weeks, there are 2 divisions in the NFL that have 3 teams that are 2-0. The NFC East, we knew they were going to be pretty competitive this year. And the NFC South, were we wrong? Is the NFC South maybe the best division in football?
Oh, God, no. I don't know if you guys caught that New Orleans-Carolina game last night.
Oh, yeah.
Did not.
I was assigned to write about that game. It's one of the worst football games I've ever seen. I mean, the Saints should have called up the league office and said, we will also take a loss, just out of fairness. Now, defensively, they were very good. Offensively, my God, that was painful. Atlanta's interesting in the sense they actually have real offensive weapons, and the defense is pretty good. The question with them is Ritter. Can Ritter be good, or is Ritter just he's just a guy? And then Tampa. Look, I kind of look at Tampa and say at some point here with Baker, history says that it's not going to work out that well. But he's playing well enough, and that defense is playing well. I do not think it's a very good division. But I do think that, if you look at Tampa, if you look at Atlanta and New Orleans, you could at least make the argument, hey, these teams are better than we thought. I wouldn't make that argument. I still think in the end, you're probably going to have one team that finishes over 500, but we shall see.
While we have Atlanta on the brain, I did want to ask, shocking, I wanted to ask a question about Jordan Love and the Packers. But Atlanta beats Green Bay this week. Packers completely just threw that game away. It was a very embarrassing fourth quarter, but it was not entirely Jordan Love's fault, which is good because they need him to be good, and he has been, to me, pretty good so far, even with that loss on Sunday. I know you wrote a lot about him over the course of the offseason, Matt, and we talked about him a number of times as well. What have you thought of the Packers' new starting quarterback through 2 weeks?
I think he's good. I think he's been good. He wasn't perfect down the stretch on Sunday, but I wouldn't say he was the reason they lost that game. I mean, they lost that game for a lot of reasons before I get to Jordan Love. So I think he's done his job. He's been fine. He hasn't been gangbusters. I mean, you don't look at him and go, oh, my God, he's for 400 yards and he did 2 games or anything like that. But, he's not making mistakes. He's got a nice yards per attempt. And some of that's been yards after catch. That's also been he's made some nice throws to second level. And I like the fact that, look, he's got a little bit of chemistry going with some of these younger receivers, guys like a Jaden Reed, who had 2 touchdowns on Sunday. So he's been what I thought he would be. I thought he would be competent. I thought he'd be a little up and down. But in the end, yeah, I think if you're the Packers, you're pretty happy with the way he played through the first 2 games.
From a quarterback who appears to be improving so far to one who very obviously is in, at least for now, a state of decline, how bad is Deshaun Watson? Because I know this show has taken a lot of joy in celebrating his downfall because, well, everything that he did off the field for a very long time that was gross and awful. But just as a quarterback, is he cooked, Matt? Because these first 2 weeks and for a lot of last season too, when he played, he hasn't looked bad. He has looked terrible.
Yeah, he stunk. There's no other way to put it. I mean, I didn't put a ton of stock into the 6 games he played last year because when you miss all that time, you have a new team, a new receiver. It's just there's so much going on. I tried to be fair and say, okay, look, I don't know that he really had a great shake. Now he had a full off season, and I was at Browns camp, and the day I went, it was a driving rainstorm, and I remember sitting there watching him and thinking, he does not look good, but maybe it's because it's raining. And then week 1, it was raining. Here's the problem. He plays in Cleveland, where the weather's terrible all the time. So he's got to deal with that. And last night, it wasn't terrible. And look, the offensive line didn't hold up fine. But if you're getting paid what he's getting paid, you got to make plays. It's just got to happen. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear now that, unfortunately, very unfortunately, they're without Nick Chubb. I don't want to hear that the offensive line wasn't perfect. It's not always going to be perfect. You need to make plays. You are being paid a fortune. You get the highest guaranteed contract in NFL history when you signed it, despite all this stuff that you mentioned earlier. he has not been anywhere near good enough. And so, yeah, right now, he's not even in the top 20 of NFL quarterbacks. I'm sitting down doing my quarterback rankings for later this week for Sports Illustrated. He's not cracking the top 20. He's been horrific. So if you're Cleveland, you got a problem because you're not getting rid of him, and he signed for 3 more years after this. So you better figure it out. I don't know whether that means trying to build his confidence up with some shorter throws, some prepackaged stuff, but whatever it is, you better start rolling it out because he has been awful. Now, if you look back to last year, 8 games straight.
Our guest is Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. He joins us weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk, typically on Mondays, but gracious enough to join us on this Tuesday to recap week 2 of the National Football League. Panic is not a word I would typically use after just 2 weeks of the NFL season. But Brandon Staley sounds a little panicked. How worried do you think he and the Chargers ought to be about their 2 narrow losses in an 0-2 start?
Very, and I thought that his press conference was pretty revealing in that regard. He is usually a very under control, reserved, level-headed guy. He wasn't that pressure. He didn't say anything that was wrong, by the way. I want to be clear. He wasn't wrong in what he said. But the way he was agitated, I think, speaks volumes. But the problem with the Chargers, which I feel like nobody ever just wants to come out and say, they're not good. And they're not good, not because they don't have talent, not because they don't have a good quarterback. They're not good because they do a lot of dumb stuff every week. They just do. Like, if you go and look at the Chargers, you really watch the Chargers, there are so many plays every game where they just give away the play. Whether they're not lined up right, whether it's a missed alignment defensively in terms of not being in the right coverage scheme, whether it's missing an easy tackle, whether it's taking a dumb penalty, they do stuff all the time. And look, if you are the upper echelon teams and you're playing a bad team, sure. If you're the Eagles and you do that against Arizona, you're probably going to get away with it. But if you're a team that is a borderline playoff team, you're probably not getting away with that stuff. And that, to me, yeah, it falls on the player. It also falls on Staley, who just time and again, he came over as a defensive coach. How many times do they have to just get absolutely torched before anybody says, it's probably time? I mean, you're giving up 10-plus yards in attempt of Ryan Tannehill, 20-24. This is the same guy that couldn't get a touchdown against the Saints and threw 3 picks. I don't know if you're the Chargers after this year that you just don't sit down and say, you know what, he's not the coach and this roster's not it. And maybe you just blow it up. I mean, obviously build around Herbert, but maybe you blow it up with Allen and Mack and Williams and Eckler and just say, you know what, we're gonna start over. Because they've been charging at this challenge, no pun intended, for a long time. And they're no closer than they were years ago.
What team would you say, and again, we want to be careful not to overreact to a 2-game sample in a 17-game season, and I understand that, but is there a team that you have looked at through 2 weeks, whether for good or for negative, and said they have really changed my perception of what they might be this year based upon how they've come out of the gate?
The Rams, who I thought would be bad. And whether it's because of Puka Nacua being great first 2 weeks, the defense being better than I thought, the Rams have played really well. They went up to Seattle and they beat up on Seattle. I mean, they pounded the Seahawks. And then they played pretty much heads-up football at 49ers. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. I'm very curious to see what happens on Monday night with the Bengals because obviously we don't even know if Burrow's going to play. I think the Rams have a real shot to go in there and win that game. And if they do, then obviously for Cincinnati, it's a 5-alarm fire at that point. At that juncture, you'd really panic. But yeah, I think the Rams are a lot better than I thought they'd be. I looked at them and felt like their roster was really light in a lot of areas. And frankly, I still feel that way, but McVay's doing a hell of a job. Stafford's looked really good. And, the Rams are showing that you can't just throw dirt on them yet.
You brought up the Bengals. If If Burrow doesn't play, I don't think they're going to win. I remember your piece at SI that said, you know what, the Bengals have a pretty good roster, but if Burrow goes down, well, he might be down. If they start 0-3, what do you think ends up happening then?
They don't make the playoffs. Look, I mean, historically speaking, if you start 0-2, it's very, very, very difficult to make the playoffs. So they did it last year. They started 0-2. And they came back and went all the way to the title game within a whisker of being back-to-back conference champions. But history says you dig an 0-2 hole, you're probably not going. Now, part of that's because a lot of 0-2 teams aren't good. Okay, they have no chance coming out of their malaise. But if the Bengals start 0-3 in the AFC, you start looking at that schedule. They got to play the Bills. They got to play the Chiefs. They got to play the Ravens in Baltimore. They still got to play Pittsburgh twice. They got to play Cleveland again. Cleveland owns them. They beat them every time they play them, it feels like. The Bengals have a lot of hard games in the schedule. They play the 49ers. They play the Seahawks. You know, they're at Tennessee. That's not an easy game. Those games are always hard against Tennessee because of how they play. So, you know, that's a lot. I mean, those are a lot of games you look at and go, even if the Bengals are good, really good, okay, probably going to lose 3-4 of those games. You know, if you're 0-3, well, guess what? That puts you at like 7 losses. Now you're hoping probably in the AFC for some tiebreakers. My biggest concern right now, though, I think, which is everybody's concern, is Burrow's calf. Because if that thing's not right, and if you watch the film, it's been evident he cannot throw the ball the way he needs to throw the ball. And if that calf lingers or gets worse, and they have to shut him down for any amount of time, it's over.
Are you buying the Dolphins hype?
Yes, in the sense that I picked the Dolphins to win the division for the season. So I'm big on them. Look, I think defensively they're going to get better and better with Fangio throughout the year, and Ramsey should be back toward the end of the season. Offensively, you know, it's the old first impressions thing where, you know, first impression is lasting. Tua wasn't good as a first impression. Tua can play. He's not Mahomes. He's not Burrow, and Burrow's right. He's not Jalen Hurts, but he's a very good quarterback. And if they keep scheming things up for him, and McDaniel is one of the best schemers in the league, he's going to be fine. Like, one thing about Tua, he's accurate and he's smart. He'll put the ball where it needs to be. So, you know, the question is, when you get a coordinator who does a really good job of muddying the waters and makes him look all over the field and scan the field, then what happens? Not because he's not smart enough to figure it out, he certainly is, but because with the Dolphins, they are very, very, very reliant on Hill, and then to a lesser degree, of course, on Waddle. And after that, there's really nobody else who scares you in the pass game. So you're going to get a coordinator who just says, you know what, we can kind of work with what we've got and figure that out. Maybe. I think the Dolphins are very good. I think they're a Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're a favorite, but I think they're a contender, and I think they'll be there, you know, second week of January.
Matt, as always, we appreciate the time. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Matt Verderame, Sports Illustrated, SI.com.
I've been telling you all about Tua. You were doubting.
No, I think Tua, I'm just concerned about his injury history because he's one hard hit away from missing 4 weeks.
Yes, he's very, very susceptible, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
The injuries are the head injuries.
Yes.
Because I feel like they're different.
Well, also, their
anything
offense
that keeps
came
you off
out
the
like
field.
a house of fire last year.
Yep.
Remember, they put up a bunch of points on the Bills at home, and teams adjusted. Like, they've got some new fun concepts in the passing game, but teams will adjust, and we'll see if they can counterpunch. Because I didn't think they were great counterpunchers last year, though how much of that was Tua being out.
Yep. Coming up, bad news for the K-State Wildcats. We'll get into that, some Big 12 talk, plus we'll talk with Michael Swain on all things KU. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 3, 4:06 on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for tagging along. Jake LeBon, Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero. We've got Royals baseball coming up tonight and tomorrow, 1:10 first pitch, 12:30 pregame coverage. So a little back-to-back Royals action coming up tonight and tomorrow morning. We'll talk some KU football with Michael Swain after What Is Wrong With You, but not great news if you are a K-State Wildcat fan. And the reason why I bring this up is that is what we are going to talk about to start this 4 o'clock hour. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Also, you can check us out on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, type in 580 Sports Talk, hit the subscribe button. You can get all of the videos on our YouTube page.
By the way, real quick housekeeping note. We have been delivering Pigskin and Hoops the last couple of days. We delivered to a lot of the city itself on Friday last week. In the last 2 days, we have gone westward in Shawnee County. We hit Silver Lake and Rossville.
Into Pottawatomie County.
Into to St. Mary's and Pottawatomie County. Yep. Went north. So we hit Holton yesterday, as well as North Topeka. And today we were out in Perry, in little Jefferson County, and down in Eskridge as well, near the Mission Valley area. So anywhere within about 45 minutes of the city in any direction, we have been out there. So be on the lookout. Also, if you are going to any of our games of the week or Thursday night football games in the upcoming weeks, you'll be able to pick up a copy of our magazine there as well. So Washburn Rural on Friday night. Washburn Rural Manhattan, huge game.
Barn burner.
We will have some at the front ticket counter, ticket table, if you'd like to pick one up.
K-State fans, you should be used to it by now. But you're not. And it's understandable because you want to dream. But what's been pretty normal is K-State having quarterback injuries, and it happened last year, happened the year before that, the entire career of Skylar Thompson, even going back to Colin Klein, even during the great year back in 2012, there was something wrong with Colin. He just gutted through it because he's one tough dude. But there's been a lot of quarterback injuries today. Chris Kleiman in his press conference said Will Howard is questionable. He has not practiced yet this week. To be determined. Chris Kleiman said if he doesn't practice, he's not going to play. And if that's the case, then Avery Johnson would get the start, and then they possibly can go to Jake Rubley. That is what could happen coming up on Saturday, 7 o'clock kickoff against UCF. Which would be kind of interesting because then it is backup quarterback versus backup quarterback. UCF, their starting quarterback, John Reese Plumlee, is hurt. He's not going to play in the game. He's going to be out for a few weeks. That was a couple of weeks ago, but I don't see him coming back.
Yeah, he got hurt against Boise State. He didn't play last week.
So I don't see him playing this week. And then you could have Avery Johnson got a few snaps in the game against Missouri. Granted, no passing attempts. He's just in there to boot, scoot, and boogie and run. But this is a bummer because Will Howard was excellent last year, and you could tell he was not full go at the end of the game against Kansas State. That is no question a fact.
So this is the thing that bothers me in retrospect. It bothered me watching it at the time on Saturday, and it bothers me even more now. If you're going to have a package for your backup quarterback, that's great. I'm supportive of that, especially when they are as dynamic as Avery Johnson appears to be with his legs. And eventually, like, he's going to have to show a passing threat, maybe on Saturday.
Have you seen that Saturday?
Yeah, but when you have an extra package for your quarterback, for your backup quarterback, for your athletic running quarterback, all for it. Why are you lining Will Howard up at wide receiver in those formations? Is that fooling anybody at all to have him stand out there? And the announcer Stinchcomb, Matt Stinchcomb, the color analyst on SEC Network, was trying to say, well, if you put him out there, you still have to have a defensive back out there on him. Yeah, but the defensive back knows he's not going out for a route, especially if he's hurt. So it's a waste. Like, put a real wide receiver out there, and then you have a blocker. You have a threat to go catch a pass. You're just wasting a guy and playing 10-on-10 with a shorter field when you have Will Howard lined up at wide receiver. I hated that.
Why do teams do that all the time?
Yeah, this is not a unique to K-State thing. Teams do this, and I don't understand why.
Like, any team that doesn't already do a 2-quarterback thing does this. And I don't get it. Like, the image that stands out to me, it's from the pros. The year Jay Cutler was in Miami, I remember they did this a few times. They brought in their backup, or they would do...
Forgot Cuddy played in Miami for a year.
Or they would do a direct snap, but they would put Cutler at wide receiver. And I just thought, is there some sort of formation rule that I'm not aware of that requires him to be out there? I don't think there is. It's strange because so many teams do that. And I saw the same thing. I thought, all right, if he was feeling healthy and if he was fully healthy, whatever. But banged up, why not take him off the field? I
don't know.
I guess
not
it's
an offensive coordinator.
I guess it's to leave open the opportunity that you're going to do a double quarterback thing.
Double pass.
But, like, that's the... KU does that, and, like, you can sort of get away with it because Bean is a sprinter who can also throw, like... And also it's, like, a team that's not probably going to win a Big 12 championship this year. But, like, what is the other defense thinking is going to happen? Like, if you get burned on a double pass to the second quarterback, like, okay, so be it. Just odd.
The interesting, and I wonder what Chris Kleiman is going to do with Will Howard, is what do you just unleash Avery Johnson and turn him this into the zone read package and only throw when you have to? The other bad part about this is that Treshaun Ward is doubtful for the game. Like, you could have really turned this into we are going to run the damn ball. We're going to have Avery Johnson at quarterback. I'm going to have DJ Giddens to the left. I'm going to have Treshaun Ward to the right. And good luck with our big O-line.
You know how many national championships I've won with that exact offense?
I'm telling you, that was what I'm thinking. That now Treshaun Ward, doubtful. He's probably not going to play. I wonder if Chris Kleiman, and he's not going to say this because college coaches are kind of wild and nuts with this. I think he knows if Will Howard's going to play or not right now. Like today, on Tuesday, he knows if Will Howard is going to play or not.
Probably.
And so how does he go about building this game plan with Avery Johnson? And it is, you need to pick a backup and you need to ride with this backup.
Yeah,
he's doing this for Jake Rubley's sake to keep his spirits up and all of that. But I think you need to make this thing a full-on, let's see what he can do type of game for Avery Johnson, and just give Will Howard the game to figure it out, because this is and what makes it even worse is this wasn't because you ran Will Howard. This was just in the natural flow of the game, right? You know, I've said this a lot about Jalen Daniels. Like, they need to stop running JD. It's only quarterback scrambles. You've got Devin Neal, you've got Highshaw, who needs to hold on to the damn football, but don't run JD. Just now I'm saying designed run, because you can't risk him getting hurt to me, because he had to go in the injury tent. Like he's a lot like, Tua. Like there's a better chance that he's going to get injured. That's what stinks about Will Howard. Also, Daniel Green out for the season. That is awful for Kansas State.
He's just hurt for Daniel Green, who's been through a lot and who's dealt with injuries. And actually, Chris Kleiman brought up, like, he could get a hardship.
Oh, easily. They've only played two. He's played 2 games.
Get a 7th year if he wants it, which is wild to think about. But yeah, you hurt for Daniel Green, and you know how much that affects the rest of that defense, because he is such a leader for that group. He's so influential.
He's a fast linebacker who's a hitter.
And you're dealing with injuries to him and Jake Clifton. So all of a sudden, outside of Austin Moore, you're really young at that spot. You're leaning on, like, true freshmen. Asa Newsom's a true freshman, and the spotlight's on him. He's the next man up, and he is going to have to cope with a UCF team that, yes, they are diminished by not having John Reese Plumlee at quarterback, but they're fast. Like, they've got a ton of skill players.
And their
speed.
scheme is very, very wide. There's a lot going on. Gus Malzahn just doesn't run dive to the left, dive to the right. There's a multiple offense with Gus Malzahn's group. And as a true freshman, that's this somehow survive this game. And that's why a part of me is like, do you think you can win with Avery Johnson? If the answer is yes, then I don't play Will Howard. You have the bye next week. And essentially, the next time that Will Howard is going to get hit is going to be against Oklahoma State on Friday, October, what is that, the 5th or something like that, I think. When do they play next? October?
Yeah, October 5 is the Thursday. Or the Friday.
Is that Friday? Yeah.
Or no.
October 6th. Yeah,
6th,
October 6th. That's you got to think kind of long term here. If you say to yourself, can we win with Avery Johnson? Can we beat UCF with Avery Johnson? Right now, K-State's a 5.5 point favorite. So this is a close game.
Reading the tea leaves and reading coach speak, I would put it at about a less than 1% chance that Will Howard's going to play in this game. Hearing he hasn't practiced yet and we need to see if he's able to do a full amount workload before the game, I'd say there's less than 1% chance Will Howard plays in this game.
Chris Kleiman usually doesn't play coy. Like,
yeah,
that's not a thing that he does. He's doesn't like.
He's been pretty open. He's not Andy Reid day to day with Eric Berry.
Mm-hmm.
Or like most doofus college football coaches who like won't tell you who's starting because they got to prepare for multiple people. He doesn't do that because he's actually a good coach and has players he can trust. So that being said, my answer to the question, can you win this game with Avery Johnson? It depends on what the playbook looks like. If you are going to only run the package that he's been running so far in the first 3 games of the season, no, I think they will lose. It is way too limited because if you're like Avery Johnson can run and he's an incredible athlete, a better athlete than I realized, to be frank, in terms of that quickness and his downfield speed. It's way too one note, I think. And the read option is difficult to defend, but this ain't 2011 trying to defend the read option.
You have to have a passing threat. And look, he's got reliable wide receivers. Jaden Jackson has been a revelation. We're hoping to see more of Keegan Johnson this week.
Phillip Brooks has been good.
Phillip Brooks has been good.
RJ
Ben
Garcia.
Sinnett's a stud.
Yeah.
Like, they've got guys he can get the ball to.
And it's not like I've been piling on this guy. It's not like he's Jalen Milroe, where like you've got to have 20 yards of open space and it's got to be more than 15, but closer than 25 yards down the field, and he can put it out there. Avery Johnson's got a gun. Like he can absolutely throw the ball. He was lighting up Elite 11 this past year. We've seen him in person. High school, granted, I know is different, but this isn't just an athlete who they put at quarterback. This is a quarterback who can also run. So if they're going to open up the playbook and let him be a quarterback, yes, K-State can absolutely win this game, and they deserve to be favored. If they're going to limit him and they try to just do, we'll just be a read option team, we're not going to try to throw more than 15 times, then no, I think it'll be a much harder game for K-State to win.
They have to get to concepts that Johnson's going to be comfortable with. That'll be the challenge at the end of the day. They have to do and they have to put routes in or route combinations together that make it easier, that slow the game down as much as possible for Avery Johnson, to get him going, to get him a rhythm, to get him confidence. It probably does simplify the passing playbook a little bit. You have to there's probably more that Howard can do through the air than Avery Johnson can at this stage, but there's certainly more that Avery Johnson can do with his legs than Will Howard can.
The one thing that I do know that makes this a lot tougher for UCF. Okay. By the way, out there, don't call them Central Florida. They don't want that. They are UCF, much like they're TCU.
Yep. TCU, SMU, UCF.
Yeah,
yes.
They want to be the initials.
Those other schools are running from a religious affiliation that doesn't really apply to them in modern day. UCF just doesn't want to be associated with the state of Florida.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know either. I'm making a funny.
But if you, because normally you think, oh, young quarterback, I'm going to blitz him. Be careful when you blitz a guy who can run a 4.4, because if he breaks the pocket, you ain't catching him. He's going to go a long, long ways. That's the one benefit. And I don't care if you got a spy. Okay. Your middle linebacker ain't going to catch him. Okay.
Yeah. I love when the regular old fan says, well, you use a quarterback spy. You know what that spy has to then do? Tackle him.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. In this situation, if you are Avery Johnson and, the proverbial stuff hits the fan and you got stuff, do what you do. Pull it down, take off, because if somebody's coming at you, more than likely they're in man coverage. And more than likely, those DBs are locked onto those wide receivers, and you can run free as a bird. That's the one thing that is scary if you are UCF with a quarterback like Avery Johnson is we saw the wiggle in the very first game of the year on the touchdown.
We saw some of it against Mizzou.
Yeah, you can't just flat out. You got to be careful because when in doubt, I tuck it and then get down. Okay, Will Howard's a little dinged up. Avery, you can't get hurt. Get down when you can. Tough to do first time out, but that's the one thing that UCF has to be prepared for.
Just in case you were wondering, by the way, maybe you were curious as to how the Howard news may have impacted what our friends in the desert might think. This game opened as K-State being 7-point favorites. I think it moved up to 8, maybe even 8.5. Right now, you can get it as low as 4.5.
Yeah,
in some places.
I think I'd stay away from this one.
Yes. Anytime backup quarterbacks are in there, and there's going to be 2 backups. That's the crazy thing. It could be 2 backups. Coming up, we got What Is Wrong With You, and then we'll talk some Jayhawk football with Michael Swain here on 580.
What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? Brendan and Dan here with you. Michael Swain is going to join us for Jayhawk Weekly coming up here in just about 10 minutes, maybe just over 10 minutes. But first, we've got 2 new stories going head-to-head today. And of course, as always, What is Wrong With You is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, saving time, money, and of course, material. So never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our winning story from yesterday, the band director who got tased because he wouldn't stop his band after a police officer told him to have his band stop playing.
I call it, and the band tased on. It's not my best work, but it'll work for now.
Yeah, we'll work with that. So that is our current winner for the week. My story today involves a gentleman hiding inside a trash compactor. We're heading to Avon Park, Florida, where a man was discovered, concealing himself in a waste disposal unit at a McDonald's after attempting to evade a traffic stop. Danilo Melendez Jr. was apprehended on Saturday and now faces multiple charges, including the unauthorized possession of prescription drugs, possession of methamphetamine, possession of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and resisting arrest. Deputies conducted a stop on Melendez just before 12:30 a.m. Saturday at the intersection of West Hall and South Hart. Allegedly, the 27-year-old was riding a bicycle without proper lighting or reflectors and was towing a makeshift wagon at the time.
Oh, nothing suspicious about a guy towing a wagon on his bike.
In the dark. A canine unit was brought in to inspect the wagon, and it alerted deputies to the presence of prohibited substances inside. Do you think there are different barks for the canine depending on what the illicit substance is? Like, oh, that's his meth bark.
I would like to think so, but I also do not believe that.
Melendez's behavior reportedly grew increasingly agitated, which raised suspicion. Probably shouldn't have done that, as he insisted that only tools were stored within the wagon. However, deputies discovered prescription pills, a small quantity of fentanyl, and a syringe which tested positive for methamphetamine inside a cooler within the wagon. As Melendez was on the verge of being handcuffed, he fled from the scene of the traffic stop. He was later located hiding in a trash compactor at a local McDonald's restaurant. That is where he was taken into custody and booked into the Highlands County Detention Center. He hid in a trash compactor. What if it had turned on?
It would have been a much different story. That probably would not have been eligible for What Is Wrong With You.
No.
Because of rule number 1 of What Is Wrong With You.
By
the way, that rule number 1 is no one can die.
No one can die. Mr. Melendez, easy to recognize because he's got some identifying tattoos on his face. Yeah, not great. Not a great decision. And yeah, you're right. Very growing agitated during the search, not going to help your case. A resisting arrest, not going to help your case. And certainly not going to help if you're trying to hide while riding your bicycle in the dark with a makeshift wagon in tow.
No.
Rumbling and bumbling along the road.
This from the 785 on the text line. Meth Bark's second album changed my life. You get the show. 785. I know that's not our bit, but you get the show.
That's really funny. Oh my God, that's gold. Thank you, text line. What's your story for today, Dan?
We're going to Alabama, and the headline kind of says it all.
Back-to-back Alabama stories.
Yeah, back-to-back Alabama. AL.com. Shout out.
Both from the same author, by the way, Carol Robinson of AL.com, hooking us up this week.
Shout out to Carol, and shout out to my good pal Andrew Hammond, who works for AL.com.
Hey.
So the headline says it all here. Man in golf cart pulls gun on DoorDash couple in Helena, assaults husband, gets stabbed by wife.
That's just a ride or die right there.
So we got a road rage incident that began around 6:30 p.m. when Helena police and fire medics learned a man with several stab wounds had walked into fire station number 3. He had been stabbed 3 times in his right arm and was taken to the hospital. About the same time, officers were dispatched to the same street, South Shades Crest Road, at the entrance of the Laurel Lakes subdivision. I'm guessing people with money live here.
Laurel Lakes? Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, it's either like $500,000 houses or a trailer park, like one of the two. It can only be one of those two things.
We're going to find out here.
Yeah, let me know. What are we looking at?
Yeah, I'll dive in here. I'll do some research.
So anyway, Helena Police Chief Brad Flynn said a couple delivering for DoorDash, which I didn't know you could do as a couple. That's a nice thing to do, I suppose.
Oh, romantic.
Yes. They called 911 to report they had been involved in a road rage incident for several miles. They had a young child in the car with them. Hey, the family that DoorDashes together stays together.
I guess.
The couple told police a vehicle pulled up closely to the rear of their vehicle while traveling on Highway 52. As they turned onto South Shades Crest Road, the vehicle continued to drive in an aggressive manner. Both vehicles turned into the Longleaf Lakes subdivision, where the aggressive driver, a woman, then pulled up next to the couple and began screaming profanities and accusing them of not using their turn signal.
Oh.
Now, I don't like it when people don't use their turn signal either. I never followed anyone for a couple of miles to berate them over their failure to use a turn signal. Sometimes you just forget. Hell, I forget I have mine on sometimes. Like I'm, 36 going on 76. I'm growing increasingly forgetful. I left the soaker hose on for 10 hours last night, watering my flowers in the front of my house. That's a true thing that happened. My wife had to go outside at 4 o'clock in the morning and turn off the soaker hose because I forgot. So that's where my head's at lately. Anyhow, this isn't about me. This is about this woman who was screaming profanities at this couple for not using their turn signal. The woman's husband then showed up at the location on a golf cart. Okay, yeah, we're talking rich people.
Hell yeah.
At this point, his wife pulled a handgun and pointed it at the DoorDash couple. So she got really brave with her husband around and pulled out the blicky. Her husband then took the gun from his wife and pointed it at the couple while screaming profanities at them. The couple immediately put their vehicle in reverse to attempt to get away from the man with the gun, but their vehicle had developed an engine problem and would not go any faster than a few miles per hour. The confrontation continued up the hill on Longleaf Lakes Drive and back onto South Shades Crest Road since the couple were unable to drive any faster. Just north of the fire station, the man approached the couple's vehicle, reached into the rear window, and began assaulting the driver. He hit the man several times in his head and shoulders and ripped off his shirt.
Oh.
The driver's wife then pulled out a pocket knife and stabbed the attacker several times to get him to stop attacking her husband. After being stabbed, the attacker walked away to the fire station to seek medical help. The couple continued driving north and called 911 once they reached the Laurel Lake subdivision entrance. Detectives have completed their investigation and will present their finding to the Bessemer Cutoff Jefferson County District Attorney's Office for review for criminal charges.
Well, shout out to her for defending her man. I respect that. Man in golf cart pulls gun. By the way, I can't find anything specific for the Laurel Lakes community. This is near Auburn, by the way, very close to Auburn,
sure,
in the town of Opelika, Alabama. Mm-hmm. That's the next closest town. I can't find anything specific, but I did find a community built by the same company that owns Laurel Lakes that has single family homes going for $350K plus.
That's about right.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah. So people with money, and
this is the West Lawrence of Alabama.
Personal golf carts and probably really nice guns, and
it's like the guns they have in the Righteous Gemstones with like pearl handles.
Yeah,
and stuff.
like the personalized joints. Yeah. Just why does things escalate and we don't understand why, and you get stabbed for your troubles? Like, leave well enough alone. They didn't use their turn signal. That's annoying. Those morons. You flash them the L for loser, or you flash them a different finger if you want. But you don't need to follow them and pull out the yapper. Like, you're opening yourself up to an end game that could be much worse than.
Yeah, I'm not especially patient with other people when I drive. But most of it is either the occasional, salute with the, single finger salute. And a lot of it's just yelling. Like, I'll just yell, but there's no one else in the car. I can just say, bleep, bleep, bleep all I want. No one can hear it. And whatever. We all get on with our day. No need to bring out the gun. No need to bring out the gun whatsoever.
No, it is not that serious.
That one's today.
Yes.
Does it win for the week? Does it beat down the band director who got tased?
I think it does. I think it does because, again, it's in the headline. Like, everything you need to know is in the headline. That this poor couple, they probably had like, I don't know what's good in Alabama. Like, it doesn't have to be anything regionally specific. It could have just been like a TGI Fridays. Like, somebody ordered a triple dipper from Chili's and they just wanted their triple dipper, and husband and wife and child were door dashing together and enjoying their evening. And the next thing they know, they're being cornered by a woman and a guy in a golf cart.
Maybe it was Bojangles.
Maybe it was Boj.
Or Crystal or something. Although you're door dashing Crystal, you've got other issues.
Yeah, I saw a lot of ads for Crystal watching the K-State Mizzou game on the SEC network.
Yeah.
You see a lot of like regionally appropriate ads for like Crystal and Regions Bank and stuff like that. Crystal is not what's popping. Like, to me, that's a no for me, dog. White Castle does it better. If you're going to do a slider, go for the Kansas original.
Yeah, that's fair. Or also in Alabama, could have been Cookout. Although, again, like, I like Cookout, but if you're door dashing Cookout, like, that's a level of laziness that you really should never reach.
Cookout's the best. Like, yeah, you get,
so good.
You get 2 hot dogs, cheeseburger, fries, a shake,
quesadilla,
quesadilla and an apple pie. Yeah, they'll be $6.
Man, if you're going to give me B+ food at A++ value, I will take that every day of the week.
Taco Bell's business model.
So good. I'm with you. That is our new winner for the week in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain of Fog.net is coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. It is Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk as we welcome in the very best in the business when it comes to covering the Kansas Jayhawks, Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Head on over to Fog.net for all of Michael's fantastic coverage of the Kansas Jayhawks, and you can also go check him out on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, how did you enjoy Reno this past weekend?
I had a blast. Up until it kind of came time to travel back home, but it was a lot of fun. I went out a day or two early and played some golf and enjoyed the nice weather out there. But it was a good trip, and I think that's probably good for me on 9:30 Central kicks for the rest of eternity.
I did see you tweet out a picture of your scorecard from when you were playing out in your Tahoe. How'd you do?
I did well. One of the better rounds I think I've played. Now it helps when you practice a little bit before you go, but yeah, I had a blast, and hopefully we'll maybe get some chance to play a little bit more here before it gets too cold.
As for the actual game out there in Reno, is it, and I don't want to put down Nevada because they came to play and they made some shifts and they tried to be creative, especially defensively, to confuse or throw off KU. So I give credit to Ken Wilson, excuse me, for doing their best to stay in that game. But is it fair for me to say that when you look at the stats and when you just use the eye test and go back and rewatch that game, that KU not dominated, but was the better team by more than just 7 points and probably could or should have won that game by more?
Yeah, just look at the fumbling stats, right? I don't know how many more times in the history of football there would be a team that fumbles 5 times and doesn't lose a single one of them. I think that's just a great indicator of, the turnover luck that I think was on Nevada's side. And that's going to happen, right? There are games that are going to be like that. I'm sure there were games like that the turnover luck was on KU's side last year. But this is the type of game where a Jalen Daniels kind of strip sack fumble, 2 back-to-back penalties from Marjay Reed-Adams that basically just stops an offensive drive that could have put KU up 14-0. Like, basically, plays like that are the ones that can really shift a game like this. And KU had 9 offensive possessions if you take away kind of the 2 end-of-half scenarios that KU got the ball in. So this was a very short game, right? Nevada came up to the line of scrimmage really early, sat there for 15 seconds, and then snapped it with 5 seconds left. And KU did the same. So this was the type of game where I think the margin was always going to be pretty fine. And when those turnovers don't go your way, like they did maybe in the second half of that Missouri State game that helped that score inflate, then yeah, it's going to be a lot closer game than maybe the stats show.
I want to focus on the positives here first. Devin Neal is a superstar. And I know you wrote a little bit, and we talked a little bit about this during the off season as well, or the lead up to the season, about some of the things that maybe teams at the next level, NFL teams, are going to like about his game, things that maybe could push him down draft boards a little bit. I go to that throwback play, that dagger concept with him coming out of the backfield. And I think on that one play, you saw everything that an NFL team would want from a running back. He adjusts mid-route to make a catch, patiently waits to get a block set up, showed some lateral quickness, then hit the jets and showed off his top-end speed as well. He has always been good since he was a freshman and he started playing at KU. But it feels to me, through 3 games at the very least, Michael, like he has hit another gear.
I think so. I think, honestly, for me, the thing that stood out the most watching him is just the way he's cutting. Like, he's making guys miss at a rate that I don't think we saw from him last season or even as a freshman, right? I think just as he's grown physically, I think his ability to get stronger has allowed him to put his foot in the ground and really cut at such a better and more effective and violent rate than I think he was able to early on. And there are just some plays where, you know, he just jukes guys, and they're just things you didn't see from him in the past. And so you add that into the fact that he's already a highly productive player for KU in the ground game, right? He showed last year against Oklahoma State that he can catch the ball at the backfield. I think he looks a lot more fluid at doing that this year. So, yeah, I think this is a guy that looks like, if this season continues, that he'll be going off to the NFL. Like, I think that's a very strong possibility, in the fact that Neal himself talked about this at Big 12 Media Days, right? Saying that it's something he's going to consider because the lifespan of a running back is so short. And one injury, one hit can change everything, like you saw last night on Monday Night Football. And so you got to maximize the snaps you have and the earning potential you have. So I think if Neal keeps this up, like I really wouldn't expect him to be in Lawrence next year. And that's a good thing. KU needs as many guys going to the NFL as possible because that helps recruiting. It also helps give some of those younger guys opportunities to grow and show and get that pipeline going.
Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, is our guest here for Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. Michael joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Tuesday at this time. You can check him out on Twitter at mswain247. Michael, is there any concern that the defense took a step back on Saturday, or were there things that you saw that you felt like weren't indicative of any issues cropping up and was just kind of indicative more so of an odd game with bad fumble luck, frankly, for the KU defense that maybe would have looked a little better if they'd forced a couple of turnovers?
Yeah, it really would have looked a lot different, right? If they'd forced 2 turnovers, if Austin Booker doesn't jump off sides. Like, it's another one of these instances where, like, you look at the overall numbers. And I think basically did Nevada have 250-something yards? Well, I think about 110 of those 250-something came off of the 50-yard completion through the air, and then there was another like 30 or 40 yard run, if I'm remembering it right. So you're looking at this. This wasn't a game where KU's defense got carved up, right? This was a couple situations, probably 3 or 4 plays throughout the course of the game that really changed it to where, again, the numbers probably look a little bit different than those kind of advanced, success rate type of numbers would show you. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think this is a game that, I just don't think KU had the intensity that it needed. And I think if you're looking at what side of the ball that's going to impact more, I think it's always going to impact the defensive side of the ball more, because that's all about your willingness to pursue the ball carrier and your willingness to stay and do your job and be mentally locked in. And I just think that throughout the course of the game, there were a few of those plays that, if this was Illinois, I don't know if KU's making those type of mental lapses.
You can speak to this having been there on the scene and being able to witness a little bit more of what's going on the sideline and things like that during the game. But it did not feel to me like KU had any panic in them. Even when that game was tied into the fourth quarter, a lot of times you're a big favorite and then you're on the road and it's a tie game all of a sudden, that you can panic in those spots. It did not feel like KU, at least watching them and seeing how the game turned out, it didn't feel like they panicked or had any real panic in them. What did you observe as the game remained close into the fourth quarter that allowed Kansas to be able to put the drive together to win the game and then get the defensive stops to salt it away?
Yeah, I think you really saw a team that had a lot of confidence and self-belief that if it just executed, it would win the game. And I think that really came across, right? There was no arguing. There was just kind of, it looked like a team that did against Illinois, where guys are on the sideline. Cool. They come, go sit with their position groups, no bickering back and forth. Everyone's very focused on the task at hand. So I think you just saw the maturity of a team that I think is really growing, right? When Lance Leipold took over, this was the youngest team in the Power Five, and they've really maintained a lot of continuity. And with that, players have matured. I think last season helped a lot, right? With how many times KU started games down 14-0 to be able to battle back, I think that those instances really help a team like this. They know that they've got the ability to win games if they just do their jobs and execute. And I think that's exactly what you saw on Saturday night.
We're chatting with Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, which is part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us every Tuesday at this time on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly. You can find him on Twitter at mswain247 and, of course, over at Fog.net and 24/7 Sports as well. The final question I've got for you, Michael, about the Nevada game is just about the offensive line. I thought Armaje Reed-Adams wasn't necessarily at his best. I thought there were a couple lapses up front over the course of the game. How comfortable are you with the offensive line play through 3 weeks? Because it's only going to get more difficult starting this Saturday against BYU and into Big 12 play. How would you analyze how this offensive line has held up so far?
I think it's been fine. I think it's been exactly what you expected. I wouldn't really even read into what you saw on Saturday, right? Nevada was a team that was always going to blitz. The coaches talked about it going into the week that Nevada was going to be a team that's going to try and really create pressure through sending extra men. And I genuinely think it was more of a schematic issue for KU, where so many of the routes they did were longer developing routes, right? Things that take time to get over the middle, 10, 15, 20 yards downfield. And you saw that in the second half, where I think KU did a little bit better job of protecting Jalen Daniels. And so I think for me in the first half, I almost look and say the play calling maybe should have been a little bit more geared towards short passes, where if Nevada blitzes, right, they've got less guys to cover on the back end, so create opportunities for your guys to go and catch the ball and run. Guys like Quentin Skinner and Luke Grimm are both pretty good yak guys. You've got someone else like Trevor Wilson that can do that. And so I think for me, it's not even an offensive line issue. I think it was just maybe a little bit more of a game plan issue, and I think they did a really good job of kind of fixing that in the second half, where Jalen wasn't running for his life, even though I don't think Nevada necessarily really went out there and changed a lot of what they were trying to do on defense.
Looking ahead to this matchup against BYU coming up on Saturday, one big deal that this game is sold out. And I know Travis Goff has talked about it, and he has effectively said, if you don't even need to really read between the lines, but he spoke to you recently on your Fog.net podcast and essentially said, hey, look, if you guys want more stadium capacity when we rebuild the booth, you better show up to games. So I don't think you can understate, Michael, how big of a deal it is for KU when they've got big games like this to actually fill the stadium for them.
Yeah, and here's my thought on it. You know, it's not even about games like this. Can you sell at the stadium if KU loses 3 straight games? That's when I think really that's what the KU athletic department is going to learn a lot about what this next capacity could be. Because a lot of people can sell out stadiums, right, when you're 3-0, you're undefeated, and you're playing well. But is that same fan support going to be there when a team loses 2 games?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for me, I look later in the season and say, okay, cool, that Texas Tech game. Like, let's say KU struggles against Texas and Oklahoma, and maybe they lose a random game in there as well. Is that Texas Tech game going to be sold out, right? Because we saw it last year, right? Those first 3 games, kind of that 3-game homestand that they had, right, were all sold out. And then they come back for Oklahoma State, and that was a game everybody knew KU had a very good shot of attaining bowl eligibility. I don't believe that was a sellout. And then you look at the Texas game, right? Same sort of instance. So I think for me looking ahead, yes, it's big that this BYU game is sold out. Any sellout for KU football is big at this point in time. But I think if we're going to draw parallels, forward and project what the next stadium should be capacity-wise, I don't think you should base it off the high watermark when the team's playing well. It's what's the capacity going to be like when the team is going through a downswing. So I think that for me is kind of more the interesting part here. But yeah, I'm also really interested in what the BYU fans are like. They travel really well, and I know they traveled well to Arkansas last week. So I'm really interested to see what the makeup of this crowd is like. But period, next sentence, it's great that it's sold out. A lot of recruits are going to be there. It's a great opportunity right on ESPN to show a full stadium as well. So I think it's a really big opportunity for the team this weekend.
Are you surprised that KU is favored by, I think we checked most recently, 9.5 points? Because BYU had an impressive win over Arkansas. I know Arkansas was shorthanded. They played an extremely sloppy game. BYU took advantage of it. Are you surprised that KU is favored that heavily at home?
A little bit, yeah. I'm wondering if Vegas is like, have they looked at the weather for this weekend yet? Because last time I checked, there's a good chance it's going to rain on Saturday. And if it rains, I think that really negates a lot of what KU can do, because I think, Illinois is probably the best comp for BYU at this point in time. And, is KU going to win that game against Illinois if it's raining and slippery outside? I think that makes things a lot tougher if the ball's slippery too. So I think this is one of those where, I think 9.5 points is a lot. And I think to some degree, probably Vegas is looking at the box score and the advanced analytics for that Arkansas game where BYU really didn't have any business winning that game. It just came from Arkansas repeatedly shooting itself in the foot. So I guess I kind of see where Vegas is coming from, but I'm pretty surprised. And look, if it rains on Saturday and KU does cover the spread, that will be one heck of a performance.
What does concern you the most? If you're in Lance Leipold, Andy Kotelnicki, Brian Borland's shoes, what concerns you the most about what BYU brings to the table?
Yeah, I think just BYU trying to make things a dogfight and really trying to do what Illinois would want to do, but maybe at a better clip, right? BYU's not going to have the same front seven that Illinois had, but I think the BYU's skill position players are probably a little bit better than Illinois' skill position players, and that's both in the secondary and on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that for me is kind of the big worry. Just BYU go in there, try and run the ball, use play action with Keaton Slovis and the deep threats they have to really try and stretch KU's defense and then go back to running the ball, right, and do kind of that sort of game plan. And then on the other side, right, how are they going to be able to slow Jalen Daniels down? I think that's really where, weather can play a big role in this game. So I look at BYU and look, if it's like Illinois, I don't know if BYU's team speed at the second level is going to be able to keep track of all the motions and be able to get sideline to sideline. So I think this is a game that could play out very similar to the Illinois game, but again, I think weather really is going to play a big factor.
When you play a team that's big and tough and physical, fumbles often come into play because they're going to hit you hard and they're going to go for the ball. When you are playing in the rain, Michael, it becomes a bigger issue when you're trying to avoid turning the ball over because it is harder to hold on to the ball. You know where this is going. KU can't hold on to the ball. The fumbles have become a legitimate issue for this team so far this season, not even including the 5 Nevada fumbles they didn't recover this past Saturday night. What is it going to take to figure this out? And how concerned are you about this fumbling situation, given the fact that they will probably be playing in nasty weather this week?
I'm really concerned about fumbling because this isn't something that's just happened this year, right? This is going back to the start of last season. Last 16 games, 16 games to include the bowl games. So start of last season, KU's put the ball on the ground 26 times. They're basically losing 1 fumble per game in that span, and they're on a streak of 5 straight games now where KU has lost a fumble. Like, it's incredible the rate at which they're putting the ball on the ground. And this also comes with a big off season right in the middle, where if you go to KU's practices, they work on ball security multiple times throughout practice, and that's in the first 30 minutes of things that we're able to view. So it's a big concern, and it's not even just like the running backs, it's the wide receivers, right? Lawrence Arnold had a fumble against Illinois. I just look overall and I say, like, KU has to hold on to the ball, because right now I think it's like 60% of their turnovers since the start of the 2022 season have been through fumbles. And those are a lot more controllable things than interceptions, where guys can just make really good plays on 50-50 balls and get interceptions. Like, these are just KU's players can't hold on to the ball. And it's a big issue and something that they really are going to have to fix, especially if they're going to continue to play in one-score games where, one fumble at a bad time can cost you a win. And that's a big deal when you're trying to chase bowl eligibility for the second straight year.
Michael Swain covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. Go find his work there again, Fog.net, and on Twitter at mswain247 is where you can follow him. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. And Michael, thank you so much as always. Glad you enjoyed the trip to Reno, and we'll see you at the booth coming up on Saturday.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys.
That's Michael Swain from Fog.net. Awesome insight into all things KU. We've got one final break in this 4 o'clock hour. We'll come back after the news. We'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, touch a little bit more on the Chiefs, your text and your YouTube comments as well. Coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on this second day of the week, first full show of the week for us here on the program. Don't forget to send in your texts. Let us know your thoughts on anything we're talking about on the text line 785-272-9429 and our YouTube channel where you can watch the show video live streaming today. YouTube channel is called 580 Sports Talk. Shout out to all of the new commenters. We've got a handful of folks today who either rarely or have never before commented, and appreciate you guys for hanging out with us today. Much appreciated. Go check it out. Subscribe if you haven't already on YouTube. That's the best way to find all of our video content. And again, youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. We've got a headline, some Chiefs talk, your thoughts as well, all coming up in this final hour of the program today. Also did want to mention, again, we talked about it about an hour ago, but the Pigskin and Hoops magazine for 2023, it is out now. It is available at businesses and schools around Northeast Kansas. I made some deliveries just today out in Perry Lecompton High School, First National Bank, or First State Bank in Perry, First State Bank of the Flint Hills Bank, in Eskridge, so both east and southwest. Down in Eskridge, Mission Valley High School. We went up north. We were up in Holton, Jackson Heights, Royal Valley yesterday. Some businesses in Holton, Seaman, Washburn Rural, schools all over the city, businesses all over the city. We've been distributing Pigskin and Hoops over the last few days. So if you haven't gotten yours yet, head to one of those businesses. You can even tell in the magazine who, well, if you don't have one, that'd be hard to know. But we do have a list of those businesses available in the magazine if you need to go pick up extras or need to refer anyone else to go find them. And if you are attending any of the games, the high school football games that we're attending this season for our Lewis Toyota High School Football Games of the Week, you can go pick up a copy of the magazine. We'll have one at Washburn Rural at Bone Glaze Stadium. We'll have a stack of them at the front desk, the table as you walk into the stadium coming up on Friday nights. We are there for our Lewis Toyota High School Football Game of the Week. That one's going to be a banger. Manhattan visiting Washburn Rural on Friday night. Yours truly, Dan and Greg, will be there for that one. Let's get to the 580 Sports Talk headlines for today, Dan. Let's start with some injury news from around the NFL. The big one, no one is surprised by this after watching the horrific injury to Nick Chubb, the running back of the Cleveland Browns last night. But the Browns made it official today. He is out for the rest of the season with a severe knee injury. Did we ever see the details of what the injury is? I believe I saw it was multiple ligaments that were damaged.
Yeah, that was what they were saying last night. I don't think I have seen any confirmation on the if it's the whole alphabet soup of ligaments, but it was obviously awful the way that Chubb reacted. You could hear him down on the field. If you were watching the Monday Night Football broadcast, you could hear that he was obviously in distress. ESPN elected not to show the replay. They showed it in the stadium. And I brought this up in the 2:00 hour, but honestly, like, that's going to stay with me for a long time, and not in a good way. The way the crowd in Pittsburgh reacted to seeing the replay.
You don't hear a lot of instantaneous, loud crowd. Like, you hear cheering for big plays or booing.
Right.
But sometimes you'll hear a big wave of some sort of reaction during a challenge.
Sure.
When the home team realizes, oh, we're going to get the ball, or, oh, that was a bad call or whatever. Last night, as they were talking about the injury and as the trainers came out to help Nick Chubb, you heard the crowd at the big ketchup bottle, as Chris Berman would say, groan and gasp in a way I've never heard before.
Yeah, that's I've never heard that before. That was the revulsion and the horror in that crowd reaction was enough to tell me that ESPN did the right thing by deciding not to show the replay. Like, if you want to see it again so bad, you probably got DVR. Like, you go ahead and rewind it, watch it again if you want. Watch it happen live.
Yeah.
You don't need to see zoomed in instant replay of maybe a career-ending injury.
Yeah,
like, I don't see what you gain from seeing that, and I think ESPN did the right thing by not showing it. I know that touched off a bit of a debate on Twitter last night. There are some people, Dan Patrick today weighed in on it. on his show and said that they think, you don't need to do an instant replay, but show, or like a slow-mo, but show it from a different angle, let people decide whether or not they want to see it or not, but show it again for journalistic purposes. It's a football game. Like, I think if we're leaning on like journalistic principles, I think we're not having the right conversation when it comes to that. This obviously a moment of extreme distress for a human being who is suffering, and it does not need to be replayed, I don't think.
I guess my question, because I saw Drew Magary tweeting about it, the former
Drew Magary from Defector, yeah.
What journalism are you doing by showing that? Like, that's my honest question. Like, what is the journalism you're doing? Joe Buck is telling you, because he saw it a second time, you could tell.
Mm-hmm.
He is telling you, hey, this is gruesome. It's a knee injury. They're going to help him off the field, and it is so bad. We're essentially go find it on your own if you want to go see this. What more journalism is there other than like weird internet poisoned brain bloodlust? Like, I don't see any reason why you should be demanding and pounding the table to see something that might have just ended a man's career.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, again, pretty much every way that you can watch a football. I mean, I guess that was network TV. That was on ABC. So there were some people watching on their antennas, certainly. But by and large, you've either got DVR and you can rewind it, or you can go to the internet. Somebody will post it for you. You can watch it again if you want.
I remember seeing Marcus Lattimore's injury, the one that effectively ended his career, save for one training camp with the 49ers. I never need to see another again. Like, I know, Willis McGahee's was famous, infamous. Mm-hmm. There have been many. Once I saw Marcus get hurt, Lattimore get hurt, I don't need to ever see one again. Like, sometimes, and I know it's football, and thankfully, you can get up and walk again and be okay, for the rest of your life. That's what matters. But I don't need to see one again. Like, I've seen enough. I've seen video of Joe Theismann's leg. I don't ever need to see this stuff again.
Yeah.
Just horrible. The wild coincidence of the day was that the NFL, it was reported last night and has gained a little more traction today. The injury to Nick Chubb happened on the same day the NFL filed a grievance against the Players Association, accusing the union of improperly advising running backs to consider faking or embellishing injuries as a contract negotiating tactic with their teams. That is the direct writing from the Washington Post and writer Mark Maskey, who we've actually had here on the program before. These adds this: the grievance was filed last week and will be resolved by an arbitrator. It accuses the NFLPA of violating provisions of the CBA between the league and union. It does not accuse any running backs of improper conduct, according to a source. The NFL's grievance seeks, quote, in order for the union to cease and desist from such improper conduct, as well as other remedies that the arbitrator may deem appropriate, the league told team owners who serve on its management council. So, according to this, the league is essentially saying, hey, the Players Association is telling running backs, play up your injuries and use it as a negotiating tactic. I don't know if that is going to be the case. I'm not saying that it is or isn't. Would I be surprised if players are doing that, either at someone else's behest or their own? No, I would not be surprised one bit. Because, you got to get every dollar you can, as well as anyone. But as a running back who your career is probably going to be shorter than those of your counterparts. Never want this, though, because it is going to get ugly.
Yeah,
I guess it already is. We've gotten to the grievance.
Yeah, if you're filing grievances, we've already arrived at ugly. We might be a couple exits past ugly, in fact. And the timing of it could not be worse from an optics perspective from the NFL, because arguably the best running back in the league, certainly one of the best, just had his knee destroyed on national television. And that's not like hyperbole. That's essentially what happened to his knee last night. So, and not intentionally. Like, I don't believe Minka Fitzpatrick had intent to injure.
No.
It's football. Yes. He went low. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's how you have to tackle Nick Chubb. You don't tackle him high. Like, that's not generally how he stops. It's unfortunate that he had come to a stop with 2 other players making contact when Fitzpatrick did collide with him low. And it's awful. It's an awful injury. But to have that on the same day that the league says, yeah, our running backs are actually they're faking injuries. They're exaggerating injuries so that they can get paid more or
I don't really know how this works as a negotiating tactic. I feel like I would think this would work against a running back.
I would think so. I would think it would work against any football player.
So I don't know about that, but still not great. Other injury news from around the NFL, by the way, as we continue our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Shaq Thompson, edge rusher for the Carolina Panthers, feared to have suffered a severe or a significant ankle injury yesterday.
And that has been concerned that he is expected to miss the rest of the season. He had surgery this morning. He broke his fibula.
And C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the safety for the Detroit Lions, played for the Eagles last year on their trip or when they went to the Super Bowl. He may have a torn pectoral muscle, which would end his season when he has surgery on that.
So he did get placed on the IR today.
Okay.
But they haven't confirmed the injury yet. Between that and Justin Houston's broken ankle, it was a rough couple of days injury news for that Lions defense.
Do you feel like there have been more torn pecs in recent memory? I feel like that's an injury that didn't happen all that often, but in the last, 3-4 years, it has come up a lot more often.
Maybe it's just happening to more prominent players.
That could be.
I mean,
that's fair.
I did TJ Watt. I think JJ Watt did it once.
Yeah, TJ Watt's definitely the one that pops in my mind first.
So when you think about it, you think of like huge guys, like giant muscle-bound defensive linemen or offensive linemen, not typically like a safety like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to place too much weight on something that's strictly anecdotal, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. Feels like it, but I'm very open to being wrong.
How about some happier football news?
Yeah.
9 players learned that they are first-year eligible players among the 273 nominees for the class of 2024 in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And one of them, one of the great players in Kansas City Chiefs history, Jamal Charles, is one of 9 first-year eligible players. Now, these are players who are not appearing on the ballot for the first time. Well, they are, but they're appearing in their first year of eligibility to be on the ballot. They have been retired for long enough that they are now eligible for consideration, and they have gone right to the ballot. The other players, in addition to Jamal Charles, that are first year eligible include another player with some strong local ties. How about Riley County and K-State's own Jordy Nelson?
Yeah.
Of course, Green Bay Packer great. Joining him at wide receiver, Brandon Marshall. 3 offensive linemen, including 2 former Packers, TJ Lang, Josh Sitton, and Max Unger. Defensive tackle, Haloti Ngata. Defensive end, Julius Peppers. And tight end, Antonio Gates. Those are the 9 new candidates who combined for 42 Pro Bowl berths, 12 first-team All-Pro selections. 5 of them won Super Bowl championships. 2 of them, Peppers and Gates, made all-decade teams.
Charles is going to be such an interesting case because if you just look at the numbers, I mean, he averaged for his career over, what was the, I got to find it here. Over 5 yards per attempt for his career. Incredible. He had multiple seasons where he averaged over 6 yards a carry. He was an incredible player, especially during his peak. The Denver and Jacksonville stuff at the end of his career, but during his peak, his 9 years in Kansas City, he was fantastic. The thing that is, I think, going to keep him out more than anything is, 9 years as a starting running back is actually a really long time in today's NFL. He was a first-team All-Pro twice, made 4 Pro Bowls, and that's it for his career awards. I just don't think that's enough to get a running back in at the Hall of Fame these days, which stinks because in terms of talent, I think he deserves it, but he was banged up a lot. He had how many years? 2011, he only played 2 games. 2015, he only played 5. 2016, he only played 3. That's a lot of missed time during the peak of your career to only have 4 Pro Bowls, 2 first-team All-Pros. Amazing player. I think it's going to be hard for him to get in.
Terrell Davis getting into the Hall of Fame shortened the window for running back greatness.
Yeah.
You now only have to have been great for the 4 or 5 year period to be considered for the Hall of Fame at the running back spot, because Terrell Davis indisputably great for that 5-year run. He had the 2,000-yard season. He won an MVP, won 2 championships.
Now, only a 4-year run, really.
Yeah. Because he got hurt. He tore his ACL there,
Yeah.
and in 2000, I believe it was, where he tore the ACL. Jamal Charles doesn't quite have like those individual accolades like you spelled out that are going to make him like much easier pick to get into the Hall of Fame. The stats speak for themselves, and they paint a picture of a dominant player, but a Hall of Fame player, that's going to be an interesting conversation, like you said. Of the guys listed, I think the guys, of the 9 who are listed, Peppers and Gates are no doubters. Be fascinating to see which one, if any, get in on the first ballot. Because that doesn't always happen. Like, just because you're nominated, there are 273 people nominated. What are they going to pick? 8 at most?
Yeah, I think it's 5 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's 5 to 8. Yeah.
So, so the list goes down to 25 semifinalists by November, 15 finalists. Then that's trimmed to 10. Then that's trimmed to 5. So it's a max of 5.
Oh, it is a max of 5.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a max of 5, and then they vote on the coach and the senior candidates.
Okay. All right. That makes more sense then.
Yeah.
I was kind of close. Yeah, I mean Peppers is in. Julius Peppers, I think, is underrated for how good he was for so long.
Yeah, awesome player.
I mean, he wasn't just good. He was great, truly great, with 3 different teams, all for multiple seasons. Yeah, he was a defensive end who played 17 years. With Carolina, he was Defensive Rookie of the Year, multiple-time first-team All-Pro, multiple-time second-team All-Pro. He was a multi-time All-Pro with the Bears, and then he actually only made 1 Pro Bowl with Green Bay, but he was really freaking good in Green Bay, too. And then at 37 years old, went back to Carolina and had an 11-sack season. He's just an unbelievable football player. He's definitely getting in. I would put him in first ballot, personally. It's amazing how much of a backup there is in the NFL. I feel like there's a bigger backup in the NFL than in baseball.
Here are the guys that didn't get in last year that were finalists: Devin Hester, Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Willie Anderson, Jared Allen, Dwight Freeney, Patrick Willis, and Darren Woodson. That is who didn't get in last year of the 15 finalists.
That's pretty crazy. All right, so hold on. I got to pull this up now because I need to have a visualization of the list. So that was, to pull this up again. Yeah, I mean, a few of those. I am in the camp that Devin Hester belongs in. I do believe he should be in the Hall of Fame.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
I mean, if you are pretty much undisputably the best to ever play your position, I don't really care what that position is, you belong in the Hall of Fame, especially if it's one who scored as often as he did. I mean, Darren Woodson was an incredible player. Reggie Wayne was an incredible player, and he had the longevity as well. Man, especially at receiver, there's such a backup. So many good dudes, and it's only going to get worse, too, as the passing game becomes a bigger and bigger deal. Quick headline for me here, and this is just super on brand, but I think it is a good thing if you are a consumer of spring football. A report today from Axios reported that the XFL and USFL are in talks to merge starting next spring. The USFL, which is Disney and Fox, apparently just own all broadcasting for every sport in the world now. The XFL, mostly on the Disney networks, ESPN, ABC, and FX, actually. And the USFL games on Fox and FS1 the last couple of years. The details, according to Axios, the merger would be structured as a merger of equals. Thus, it will require regulatory approval, but they want to combine before the 2024 season, which begins like within weeks after the Super Bowl. That's when they like to get this kicked off. So we're gonna know in the very near future, within the next 5 months, if this is going to end up happening. Fox Corporation owns the USFL. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his team own the XFL, but they have partnered with ESPN and Disney. Game broadcasts would likely be split between Fox and the XFL media partner, Disney. It's not determined yet if some games will also end up on NBC. An announcement of the deal could come as early as this week. I think this is good. I'm obsessive about football, so I did not watch nearly as much USFL this year because I'm kind of over the watching games in empty stadiums, like when we had to during COVID, that you live with it. But now, like, I don't need to watch the Michigan Panthers play the Pittsburgh Maulers in an empty Canton, Ohio stadium. Like, I just don't need to see that. The product is decent. There aren't enough good quarterbacks, but like it's essentially a league of, hey, remember that guy who was good in college, or like that guy who had one good rookie year and then fizzled out in the NFL.
Yeah, Breland Speaks being the best pass rusher in the USFL kind of told me all I needed to know about the relative quality of play in the USFL. But on the other hand, good for Breland Speaks. I remember that's a guy I remember.
It's a guy you remember. Kevontae Turpin, the return man for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
He was a star in the USFL, I believe it was. He ended up back in the NFL.
It never made a lot of sense to have two competing spring leagues.
Agreed.
This felt like a natural endpoint where if they could get together and put together a maybe a 12 to 16 team league in markets that'll care, in markets that'll actually go to these games. And there are some.
Yeah. St. Louis was awesome when I was there. 35,000-ish, fill the lower bowl of an indoor stadium. They get great crowds in Washington, D.C. because they play in the soccer stadium in where D.C. United plays.
Yeah, Audi Park, I think it is.
Yes, that is it. Right now, each league has 8 teams. I would say cut it to 12, probably. Spread the rosters out a little bit. Consolidate the talent. It's not for everyone. Like my dad, also huge football fan. He's told me before, he's like, Brendan, I can't watch this. Like, I can't do it. So no, I get it. I understand. But if you're into this, this is a good thing. More football is good for the players. And also, if the NFL was smart and actually would adopt rules and use it as more of a developmental league, it would be good for the NFL too. But that's your spring football update.
One last headline from me. It pertains to television ratings for college football, particularly the giant number Colorado and Colorado State did on Saturday night. How about 9.3 million viewers for the Rocky Mountain Showdown, a game that I can tell you growing up in Colorado, we didn't really care all that much about.
No.
We didn't care about it like this.
I didn't care about it like this last year.
Like it had nothing to do with it being the Rocky Mountain Showdown. It has everything to do with the Coach Prime Show. The Coach Prime Show did a 9.3 on Saturday night, and it is a monster rating for a late night game. And you know who probably feels a small measure of vindication this morning when seeing ESPN report that number? 9.3 million people watching essentially Pac-12 after dark because of Deion Sanders. George Klevikoff, who said this would happen, who said that Deion was going to bring eyeballs to the Pac-12, and was met with eye rolls, and was met with derision, and was met with ultimately his league crumbling into dust and him not having a job anymore very soon. But he was right about this.
Yeah.
People want, like, it is remarkable. Like there were some very funny tweets about it on Twitter on Saturday where people were saying, man, Deion Sanders has people really saying, get this SEC rivalry out of my face so we can watch the Battle of Colorado.
Yeah.
So we can see what the Colorado State Rams are getting up to. Like, people want to watch this Colorado thing. It's a phenomenon that we haven't had in college football, I said, since USC in the mid 2000s, with Bush and Leinart and Pete Carroll. And they were like, not only were they cool for like the celebrities showing up, like Snoop Dogg's at all their games and Will Ferrell's at all their games, but they were the team you had to watch week in and week out. You watched USC. I remember staying in. I stayed in a lot in college. I'm not going to lie to you folks. I stayed in a lot in college, but I purposely stayed in to watch Reggie Bush. Remember the game against Fresno State?
Behind the back, come
Yes.
back inside.
The juke on the sideline.
Of course.
Yeah, one of the most iconic plays in college football history. Yeah, I stayed in to watch that game because it was USC and it was Reggie Bush. And now we have this with Colorado, and it took all of 3 games to make them must-see television. Whether you love Coach Prime or you don't love Coach Prime, or you've got some misgivings about Coach Prime, but you're largely okay, or you liked him as a player, but you don't love him as a coach, whatever it might be, you're watching. People are watching this. People have an appetite for this. And, like, we'll see how this goes, because every college football program, even the ones who rule imperially, they got their peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
It's been all peaks for Colorado through 3 weeks. Big crowds, lots of hype, celebrities on the sideline, and winning, entertaining football games. They are 21.5-point underdog to Oregon in Eugene this Saturday. They will probably, presuming they don't stun Oregon, and even if maybe they do, they're going to be a similar underdog to USC in Boulder in a game that will kick off at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, because, again, the people who run college football are the network executives. They are the commissioners of the National Football League. Eric Shanks at ESPN or at Fox, and Norby at ESPN. They are the commissioners of college football. But, yeah, however you feel about this, it's been fun, it's been entertaining, and a lot of people are watching.
I did not know this until literally right now. So the Rocky Mountain Showdown, Colorado versus Colorado State, has been played 92 times. Do you know how many of those 92 times have featured one of them being ranked? Either one of them.
So there was, I think, a 4 or 5 year stretch, late 90s, early 2000s, where one team was ranked and the ranked team lost every year. 98 to 03, maybe, and it was that window.
Yes, 98 to 03. Yes, you are correct. Well done.
The ranked team, whoever it was, because Colorado State had some good teams there too.
Bradley Van Pelt.
Bradley Van Pelt, Sonny Lubick was the coach. They had some good teams too. They'd come in ranked, Colorado would beat them, or Colorado would come in ranked, and CSU would upset them. And Bradley Van Pelt throw the football at a Colorado player, and like there's real like nastiness, in that rivalry. You may have heard about it at the top of the hour on the CBS News that the kid from Colorado State is getting death threats over the hit he put on Travis Hunter. So, like, there's real nastiness and edge to that rivalry, but not a lot of, like, great football. Like, I would say no more than 15 times in history has it been a ranked team in that game.
So they didn't play every year from 89 through 2003. They played 11 times in that 14-year stretch. There was at least one of them ranked. In fact, exactly one of them ranked 11 straight meetings. This weekend was the only other time either of them has ever been ranked. It was the 12th time ever.
Wow.
Not a lot of winning football historically in the state of Colorado.
No, you could certainly fairly say that, but yeah, it is. It's fascinating what they've got cooking in Colorado, and we'll see how it looks when it's not all peaks. Like I said, like if they go and they get mollywopped back-to-back weeks by Oregon and USC, well, they were supposed to get mollywopped. Like maybe that doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
They go beat Arizona State the week after that, and Travis Hunter gets healthy, and maybe it's right back to being a peak.
Sure.
But, there is no denying that this is the story that people have an appetite for, and this is the team that people want to watch. And I think it probably is helped by the fact that Georgia's kind of played with their food their first 3 games, and they haven't looked like a dominant team by any stretch. Alabama has very clearly taken a step back. I know Texas beat Alabama, but nobody trusts Texas. Like the brand name college football programs are not maybe what they used to be. Like USC looks like they're pretty good, but it's been a while since USC was USC. So there's a void of interest at the top of college football, and Colorado is filling that void for now.
Let's take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk as we wrap up our 580 Sports Talk headlines for this Tuesday, September 19th. On the other side of this timeout, we'll talk a little bit more college football, including what appears to be the second edition of an all-time jerk move by a soon-to-be fired football coach. We'll get to that next on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk, 5:38 on this Tuesday afternoon. Some quick trivia for you before we get to college football. One from me and one from the YouTube comments. I think I had known this before, but Vance mentioned it in the YouTube comments after we were talking about where we have sent the Pigskin and Hoops magazine so far, where we've delivered them.
Yep.
Did you know that Jackson Heights High School in Holton, north of Holton, was originally an ICBM missile silo, and they built the school on top of it?
I think I had heard that. And I think when I heard that, I was disappointed that their mascot is the Cobra instead of something missile related.
I feel like we've had this conversation before, so I definitely knew this at one point.
Yeah.
Like Cobra, fine.
Cobra's actually cool. It's unique. I think they're the only Cobras in the state of Kansas.
Theirs is quite menacing too.
Yeah, it's a nasty Cobra.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought I had heard that before. I found out while I was at Holton High yesterday that during World War II, the original rules of basketball were stored at the high school.
That I did not know.
Yeah, and Fog Allen and Dr. Naismith actually dedicated the original basketball court at the school.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one of James Naismith, his daughter was married to a man from Holton, I think. I think that was the story. Yes, they have the original center court still up on the wall in their common area with the dedication to Fog Allen and James Naismith.
How about that?
I did not know that until yesterday. That was sick. I'm walking out of the office to go back to our truck, and I thought, what is that? Oh, shoot. That's really cool. Hey, you learn something new every day. We talked in headlines yesterday, or it came up on the show yesterday. Mel Tucker getting fired at Michigan State. Going. And, I mean, gross. Even if all that went wrong was what he admitted to and nothing more, what he admitted to was gross, unprofessional, and certainly inappropriate, and is grounds to be let go by the university. He has since released a statement through his lawyer about how this is a miscarriage of justice. And let me pull up the full thing right here. Very upset about the whole thing. It says that there are other motives at play. I mean, well, yeah. And there is a bias against him throughout the process. Part of the statement reads, quote, let's be clear. I don't believe MSU plans to fire me because I admitted to an entirely consensual private relationship. It was allegedly not consensual with another adult who gave one presentation at MSU at my behest over 2 years ago. And essentially outlines why he didn't want to do this, or why this wasn't a problem, why he shouldn't have been fired, et cetera, et cetera. He also mentions that the notice came, and here's the quote. MSU sent its notice of intent to terminate just days after I emailed Michigan State Athletic Director Alan Haller, I don't know how you say it, Haller, requesting a medical leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act for a serious health condition. I can only conclude MSU does not care about my rights, the truth, or its future liability for policing its employees' private lives. Okay, so in and of itself, that popping up out of absolutely nowhere sends up a red flag. Maybe he does have a medical thing going on. That doesn't mean that you can, pleasure yourself while you're on the phone with another professional in an allegedly non-consensual environment. But not only that, here's a fun fact for you, Dan. You know how I was joking yesterday about how he was the defensive coordinator for the worst defense in the NFL in 2014 with the Chicago Bears?
I remember that, yes.
Do you know what Mel Tucker did when he found out the Bears were going to fire him in 2014?
I don't know.
He filed a claim under the Family and Medical Leave Act. So, not that it's impossible that there is some sort of medical problem or familial problem going on for Mel Tucker, but it is interesting.
It does appear to be part of the Mel Tucker playbook.
That when he knows he's going to get fired, he suddenly has an FMLA claim. It's interesting. The last 2 times he's been fired, the same thing has happened. That's interesting. What a dirtbag. That's not alleged. That's a dirtbag.
Yeah. Can't say I'm a fan.
No.
I grew immediately suspicious, not just how he left Colorado in the lurch. I didn't entirely blame him for that. It was crummy, but it's also college football and how the business works sometimes. But I don't trust people that get as big into NFTs as he did.
Yeah, that I know there are still a lot of NFT folks out there. Like that's still a thing people are into, but the wave has since passed by quite a bit.
You can still go to SpartyNFT.com. It's still up. NF Tuck. Buy it now. The momentum is real. The future is now. NFTs for a cause.
All proceeds go to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeastern Michigan. All the proceeds? Do I need to get like Guide Star on this and make sure this is true?
3 available NF Tucks for you to choose from.
One of him walking in a vest, one of him walking in a sweatshirt, and one of him walking in a t-shirt.
Hey, the one of him walking in a t-shirt has the Peach Bowl champions ring on it.
I mean, how do you not?
The first 99 get a commemorative coin for free.
Oh, well. Yeah. I mean, it's shady. He's shady to say the least. Michigan State's going to be better off when he's gone. Bruce Feldman, by the way, yesterday put out his initial list of who might be interested in this job. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Or who should they reach out to anyway?
Chris Kleiman was on it. Lance Leipold was on it. They're going to be on every one of these lists for a job that has more national prominence than Kansas and Kansas State until neither of them are at Kansas and Kansas State. And then whoever else is winning at Kansas or Kansas State will have their name in the article. It's just how the rumor mill is going to churn.
I was pretty nervous last year about Lance Leipold. Like I always felt like he's going to be fine. He's going to stay at KU, but Nebraska is certainly, in terms of prestige of football, a step up. I don't know, man. I guess if he really was dying to go to a Big Ten program, sure, do it. I mean, Michigan State's got money. They've got resources. It's one of the new Power 2, unofficially Power 2. But, like, would you get a bunch of stuff written into your contract about getting a new stadium and improvements for the program if you were just going to up and leave a year later? Like, I know money is money, and I get it, but I don't know. That would just seem odd. And same with Kleiman. Like, he is so entrenched in K-State football now.
Yeah.
The program has so much momentum. I just have a hard time seeing it.
AD is his buddy.
Yeah.
Like, there's such a good working relationship there that I just don't think you torpedo it to go at most. Like, your best bet especially as the Big Ten changes, like, what is success going to look like for Michigan State? Like, how good can that program really be if you're competing against Ohio State?
Yep.
Who is the only Big Ten program that's proven they can recruit at an SEC level?
Yep.
If you're up against fully actualized Michigan, as long as they remain fully actualized, we'll see like how long Harbaugh stays, how they do under whoever is after Harbaugh. But obviously, peak Michigan right now, and we see what that ceiling is. They've been in the playoff 2 straight years. Penn State operating at a level of a top 10 program. And now USC and Oregon joining the league, which have been playoff programs. Washington has made the playoff.
Yeah, Washington at full strength is a pretty dang good program.
So, like, where does Michigan State kind of fit in the landscape of, like, are they a program on the level of Wisconsin? Maybe, but like, what does that level look like when now there are schools entering the league in a tier above you?
That's a great question. It is a great question. By the way, other names who were included on this list, Mike Elko at Duke, which, I mean, that'd be a home run hire because he's a stud. Leipold, again, I get it. Kleiman, I get it. PJ Fleck, which would be hysterical if he did that.
Very funny.
Willie Fritz ain't taking that job, man. I guess offer it, maybe it happens, but I don't know. That doesn't seem realistic. Kane Womack, the head coach at South Alabama, I'm a huge fan of his. You suggest Pat Narduzzi, which would also be really funny.
Yeah, it came from Michigan State to go to Pitt. Yeah, but he's the second winningest coach in Pitt football history.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how long he's been there.
That's kind of crazy. Doesn't feel like it's been that long.
I can't believe he surpassed Dave Wannstedt.
Yeah, shocking there. Sean Lewis from Colorado is the name to watch there, I think. He was a head coach who left to be an offensive coordinator. And aside from the fact they have really good talent, the stuff they run on offense is awesome.
Barring a total meltdown for Colorado football, Sean Lewis is going to be a head coach somewhere else next year.
I think so too.
Because the lead line on his resume is going to be like Shedeur Sanders is going to be a top 10, maybe top 5, maybe top 3 Heisman vote getter. And that's pretty good first line on your resume. The previous head coaching experience, and then went to Colorado and we did this. All right, sign him up. He's going somewhere.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, that's a little bit of an update on the future Michigan State coaching situation. Let's get to a break. We'll come back, talk a little Chiefs before we get out of here on 580 Sports Talk. Final few minutes of 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. Royals baseball coming up tonight. Pregame at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. First pitch at 6:40. Steven Cruz, the opener for the Royals tonight. Do you know who's piggybacking tonight?
I do not.
Neither do I.
Could be Alec Marsh.
Sure. We'll go with Alec Marsh.
Been a minute since Marsh has pitched, I think. I think he pitched last Wednesday. So
that would fit then.
Maybe it's him.
Maybe. We'll find out tonight by the third inning or so. Royals baseball again, 6:40 first pitch here on 580 WIBW. We led the show today talking a little bit about the Chiefs offense and whether or not concern creeps in after 2 less than stellar weeks so far. I think I've lowered my I already was firmly not concerned, but I think the more I consider, look, man, they've been so dominant for so long. Like, it's okay to hit a bump in the road. I think I've lowered my concern to even more negligible just because, like, hey, look, sometimes you have bad weeks. And I get that there's some underlying advanced numbers that say, hey, things aren't perfect so far, but the sample is small. It's a largely new wide receiver room. Kelsey missed a week. Offensive line play has not been as good as it has been the last couple of years, again, through just 2 games. You can't expect everyone to be perfect all the time. So I think I'm, over the course of the last 4 hours, even less concerned now.
Yeah, I inclined to believe that Mahomes and Reed are going to figure it out. And go back to the point I made at the top of the show, not the tortured fishing analogy, my first point that I made, which was a lot of the problems that the Chiefs have had have been problems of their own making. And it can be really easy to unmake your own problems because those can be a focus issue. Those can be a technique issue. If your scheme isn't good or if your players aren't good, then ultimately you're going to run into some problems. You'll run into more long-term problems. I don't think the scheme is the issue, and I don't think the players are the issue. I could be wrong. I mean, we could be wrong about all of this. We could be sitting here week 8 if it doesn't improve and they're still sitting in the middle of the pack or worse in expected points added or any of the other, DVOA, any of the nerd stats you want. And then maybe we need to look at, okay, maybe they really miss Eric Bieniemy, or maybe they really miss like the reliability of a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster, or maybe Kelsey has taken a step back instead of just, he's played 1 week on a bad wheel and still caught a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that we're underreacting, but I'd rather underreact now. That feels like the more prudent course of action, given what we have witnessed, the level of greatness that we have witnessed from the main components of this offense over the last 6 years.
We've got one final break to get to. We'll pay those bills, come back, wrap up 580 Sports Talk with the final word right after this on 580 WIBW. Wrapping up 580 Sports Talk with a quick final word. You're up first, Dan.
Going to be next man up for the K-State Wildcats this week and for the rest of the year at linebacker. We know that with the loss of Daniel Green. Might be next man up at quarterback if Will Howard can't go. But Jake pointed out, losing quarterbacks to injuries is nothing new to Kansas State. And last year, before the season, if you'd have said that Adrian Martinez was going to miss extended time, you'd been worried about the Wildcats. And then Will Howard came off the oak and played brilliantly and helped K-State win a Big 12 championship. It's different expectations for a true freshman if indeed Avery Johnson has to start Saturday. But I think he's got the ability, both as a runner and with his arm, to help K-State win on Saturday, even if Will Howard can't go.
Final word for me, it is sick that David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium is sold out for Saturday, Tuesday, and that game is already sold out. It is going to be an awesome environment. I've seen as many as 10,000 BYU fans are potentially going to be in the visiting contingent. Going to be a fun crowd for that game. Huge opportunity for KU coming up on Saturday. It's the ESPN game on Saturday. They go ESPN, ABC, 2:30 windows, back-to-back weeks. That's been a long time since there's been anything like that in Lawrence. Really excited for that sellout crowd coming up on Tuesday. Short show again for us tomorrow. We'll be on following Royals day game, post game until 6 o'clock. Whenever the game ends, we'll be on following that. For Jake LeBon, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. We'll talk to you right back here tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk.